Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the third episode of our podcast. And here we have a very interesting person from the local city where we live in, and his name is Chuck. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Chuck?
Well, hi, Ivan.
Hi.
I thank you guys, you and Daniel, for having me on here today. My name is Chuck DeBroder, and I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. Grew up next to the Rockies, but I am an adopted El Paso native now. I call El Paso my home, and Juarez and
How long you been here?
northern Chihuahua and southern New Mexico. I have actually been here. It was May 29th, 1995. Were you guys born yet?
Yeah, I was born in
okay,
84.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure. And I came here. I was only 10 at the time, a child prodigy. And no, I was hired by the NBC affiliate here in El Paso. And we go back a little bit. Man, my advice to everybody, always go after what you love to do as a career. Because then if you do something you love, it's not a job. Right? It's not something you're like, oh, damn, I got to get up and go to work today. True. You're like, oh, wow, man, I get to do this. And so, I had that about radio, which we're doing here.
Right.
And I thought, gee, I'll go to college to learn how to do radio and get a degree. Now, I still believe a degree is a key that opens up doors, but you can get a degree in basket weaving. And as long as you're motivated and you know what door to open and what doors to knock on, you can get hired.
Be successful.
Now we were talking before we got on. We're saving all the good stuff
Right.
For when we get on. But YouTube now, you can become an expert. And my beautiful wife here, Rosario, she is my everything in our business. Real quick, I was, went into radio, TV, broadcasting, and public relations. I have a double first degree, double emphasis. And I did corporate advertising, corporate PR for Adolph Coors Company in Golden, Colorado. And it was a cool job, but I found out PR is like politics. It's when and how to severely stretch the truth and maybe on occasion not really tell the truth. And at least in weather, I believe it's going to be 109 degrees today at the time we're recording this in El Paso. One half a step from hell. Right there.
That's why they call it El Paso.
El Paso right here. Remember, it was the International Hotel. And the letters had fallen off on the side you're driving in from the west side. And it said International Hell right there on the side of the building.
Yeah.
It really did. It's now the DoubleTree, But, yeah, International Hell, which was kind of true. But you know what? It's a place where we have the nicest people in the world. We have one of the lowest crime rates. Now, maybe some of the police reports get thrown away. I don't know. Right. But no, we really are a safe city here. And people freak out about Juarez. I've gone every weekend to Juarez for 10 years. I've heard gunshots once. You go to Albuquerque, I call it.
Right.
Albuquerque, up in New Mexico, you hear gunshots all day, all night.
Exactly.
A Border Patrol agent now told me the Japanese Yakuza and the triads are there. And they have Fast and the Furious cars and little Japanese motorcycles, and they're doing burnouts in the middle of I-25. But they're battling for, the reason they moved there is because of Breaking Bad. They thought, gee, we can make some bank. And maybe they are. I don't know. But we're so safe and so different from the rest of the world. Plus, we have the best Mexican food this side of the border.
Oh, yes,
right
for sure. Let me ask you something. What do you also believe in the contrast between humidity and dryness? Do you like humid places, weather, or humid?
Oh, man, I grew up in Denver, Colorado, where it's dry unless it's the monsoon like we're in right now, and it's a little humid, but nothing like even, I moved down to Lubbock, Texas, and I lost 5 pounds in water weight on the first day.
Yeah, I used to live there too.
Right off a slide.
Oh, Slide
So,
Road.
yeah, Slide Road and Circle. And there was South Plains College up the road, and then, of course, Guns Up and Texas Tech.
Right.
And
Did you ever hear about the town called Post, Texas?
Post. Well, that's where I started in TV weather. I got a second degree. I went into PR.
Right.
And in hypnosis, this is called nested loops, where you really don't finish a story and you start another one, and then I'll wrap it all up at the end. So don't worry about that. But, I got my first degree in broadcasting PR, and I found out in radio you make minimum wage, and you can qualify for free government cheese, which you can now on TV. They pay, there was a weekend weather girl 3 years ago we hired. Beautiful girl, paid NBC here in market 85 now, 85th largest TV market in the country, paying minimum wage.
What?
How are you going to pay off your student loans with minimum wage?
That's crazy.
And they do it because, radio, TV, it's all an ego business, right? Oh, well, you can say you're on TV. Well, then people are looking at my shoes with a duct tape on the bottom saying,
Exactly.
you're on TV? Wow. Geez, dude, maybe we can help you out there. But so radio doesn't pay. PR, they lie all the time, and there's just a bunch of stressed people on their fifth cup of coffee by 10 a.m., but they showed up at work at 9 a.m., and they were supposed to be there at 8 a.m. They leave at noon, come back at 2:30 from lunch, 2.5-hour lunch, then wonder why they're stressed to finish their work. And I thought, gee, my mom watches still to this day, she's retired, from Coors, actually. She worked there nearly 30 years. And she watches every newscast, every weathercast on every channel all day, every day. And then she'll say, oh, that lady doesn't know what she's talking about, or that guy's not as good as this guy in weather. And it stuck subconsciously in my mind, and I'm like, maybe I'll go into weather. So I went from CSU Pueblo, which is kind of like the UTEP of Colorado, in Pueblo, Colorado. I went to get a meteorology degree at Metropolitan State University in downtown Denver. And that's, it's much more difficult than a Bachelor of Arts. You study 3 weeks before the test and maybe you'll pass. There's Calc 3, Physics 3, Statistics.
Oh, it goes up to Calc 3?
Yeah, and all that stuff incorporated with weather. But I hired some tutors that are now, after tutoring me, are in the state mental hospital in Colorado because I'm not a math guy, but I made it through Calc 3. And but they didn't make it through the tutoring sessions, and God bless them. I hope they're all right. No, I'm just...
Right. So let's go back to how you ended up in Lubbock and how you know about Post. I'm kind of curious about that.
I would, I drove around, and this is something, I have 3 keys to success. One is practice, right? Like right now with the podcasting, just doing it. Just take action, man. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have the best equipment. You don't have to do any of that. And now with online, God, people are used to people's cell phone video. Yep. So you don't need to have perfect lighting, perfect video. I thought that coming from TV, but let's rewind. I got my second degree, and I said, just people come knocking on my door, giving me a job. No. That's not how life works. You have to go out and get it. I remember at like 3 a.m, I couldn't afford a hotel in South Dakota. I'd gone up there for a job audition. The wind chill was 20 below. I'm driving a 1982 Buick Limited Edition, limited because it was a piece of crap car. And the 4-cylinder engine was mounted sideways and had shock absorbers because when you stepped on the gas, the whole engine would flip like that. I don't know what drunk engineer designed that car. But anyway, so I had a hose blow. It overheated in 20 below, overheated my car because I kept driving it because I'm like, damn, I got to make it somewhere cheap to stay or sleep in my car, but if I sleep in my car, I'm going to freeze to death. So anyway, that was like my 12th TV station of auditioning. And I made resume tapes at my internships at Pueblo and Colorado Springs. So people were like, Chuck, damn, you're good. Where do you work now? And I'm like, I give the best forecast in the world out of my living room in Pueblo, Colorado. And they're like, what? Because I used to record the weather guy.
Right.
And I loved when he was live because then I could stand in front of the weather graphics and act like I was doing that day's weather, right?
Right.
So I practiced every night. So I got a maybe from Lubbock, Texas. And my friend at the time got hired at the local hospital and got a signing bonus. And we drove down and I pulled over because I could see the cumulus clouds. I could see the whole cloud. Because growing up next to the Rockies in Denver, you only see the top part of the cloud before it hits you coming over the mountains. And so I went there and I knew I had been a trainer and a waiter for Chili's. So I knew I could get a gig waiting tables at the Chili's, across from the mall.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah. South Plains Mall.
South Plains Mall. And we would watch the rednecks when it rained. There would be no drainage. And there'd literally be 6 feet of water in the mall parking lot. And they would drive their big pickups into the water and then jump out and be like neck deep in the water. And we would, watch from the Chili's and laugh. But anyway, I went to the TV station. I called up the news director. And he goes, oh, Chuck, where are you? I'm here in Lubbock, just rented a house. I'm ready to go, ready to do some weather, fill in weather for you. And he's like, today's my last day as news director. I'm going to be the PR guy for Lubbock Independent School District, so good luck.
Oh,
and I had moved all the way down, and I'm like, okay. So I went to the other TV stations. And some hater weekend weather guy who was jealous was like, dude, you have too much of a radio voice for TV. And I'm like, dude, people watch and listen to TV. Sometimes they're cooking, they're doing other stuff. So I never gave up. And the new news director at the station that the news director left, the NBC, KCBD in Lubbock, Texas, longest news anchor running team in history.
Oh, shit.
Karen McKay and Abner Uresti.
I remember the Karen McKay.
Yeah. And Abner Uresti, the only Latino on TV for 48 years, I think, or maybe 50 now. They've been a news anchor team. And John Robinson, who's the weather guy. And anyway, there was Len something, his last name, a really cool black guy that was the weekend weather guy. And he was the morning, and they needed a weekend guy. And I auditioned. I gave him a tape. I auditioned. I was so good that John went into the GM and asked for a contract renegotiation because they thought I was being brought in to take his job. I'm like, dude, no, I just had a good audition tape and I can talk.
Right.
But anyway, long story short, they hired me and paid me $8 an hour.
What year was this?
This was 1993.
93. Okay.
And they paid me $8 an hour. And the GM, Bill DeTurnion, I still remember his name. He had his hunting dogs down below the transmitter in the back parking lot. He's like, Chuck, man, if you don't like $8 an hour, I can find 50 Texas Tech students that would gladly take their job. And I'm like, but dude, they don't have a meteorology degree. And I'm about ready to get my National Weather Association seal of approval and American Meteorological seal of approval. But anyway, I worked there a year and 8 months, and I made more money at Chili's than I did on TV. So I'd go up to people's tables and I'm like, hey, how about a top shelf margarita or an IBC root beer? And they're like, Chuck DeBroder, I love your weather on KCBD. What are you doing here? I'm like, how do you like your fajitas? I gotta pay 2 college degrees. I gotta pay my rent.
Hell yeah.
So long story short, a year and 8 months, Channel 9 here in El Paso offered me 2.5 times what I was making at Chili's and KCBD combined. So I moved May 29th, 1995. I started at Channel 9. and
Damn.
I was not just shy of 3 years. I was the morning and weekend. They neglected to tell me there was only one weather guy, so I had to do weekends, 5 or it was 6 and 10 weekends, Saturday, Sunday. Then after the 10 o'clock, I would record all the Today Show cut-ins, the morning weather cut-ins for the morning show, and I would be on tape in the morning show in El Paso, which I thought was so weird and so not right weather-wise, because weather's what's happening right now. And then the first day that I came there on a morning, I was waiting around, thought, gee, I'm going to start on the noon newscast. And the production messed with me and said, oh, yeah, you're on at noon. There was no noon newscast at that time, so they were messing with me. But oh, well. So then the main guy would then record Monday night for Tuesday morning. So my 2 days off were Monday and Tuesday. But my weekend started at 11:15 Sunday night and then ended at 9 p.m. on Tuesday because I would have to do the morning show Wednesday through Friday. And at that time, the computers were so slow. It was, I went from 2 radars on the TV station in Lubbock and a computer system that had everything going. It came to El Paso. There was no National Weather Service radar in town. What? They had to use the 1957 air traffic control radar out at the airport to maybe see some storms coming in. And Holloman Air Force Base radar, which only got the east side of the Franklin Mountains pretty much, because there's something called a radar shadow. Mm-hmm. The mountains block what's close to the mountain rain-wise on the west side. And I'm like, what the heck? And they had dial-up still downloading the weather maps. So here's the U.S. map would go, one image. And I would have to at least get 15 images to then loop the U.S. radar map, which the main guy, Jim Gamble, rest his soul, he passed away a few years back, but he would literally, and then on my days off sometimes, or on a day I just did the morning show, and, I would get to work at 1 a.m. I saw people leaving the bars. I saw them leaving King's X and places if I went down Mesa, or I would have to dodge illegals running across the border with their shirt in their hand. And it was night, and I would have to dodge them on I-10. They'd be running across. Shit. But at like 1:30 in the morning, I'm going to work, right? So at 11 a.m., I'm driving home, and I'm like a zombie. I'm slapping myself, drinking water to stay awake just to drive from downtown El Paso to the west side. Anyway, long story short, became the main weather anchor for 21 years, 3 months. Then it'll be 2 years this September 12th. They actually let me go over the phone for talking to corporate HR, but it was the best blessing in the world. TV can't afford to pay anybody. And if you have a personality, they don't want you on TV anymore because that means they have to pay you more.
Right.
So now not as many people are advertising because everybody's on their social media, on Netflix, on YouTube. They're not watching local TV news anymore.
Right, yeah.
So I understand it. They fired first Farron Franzak, remained female, then Bo Bagley, who'd been there 12 years as the sports director.
Yep, they fired Bo Bagley.
Yeah. And then they fired Don Guevara, and then they fired me. And, a lot of politics. It's showbiz. But now local and national news, they're both labeled as entertainment programs. And by labeling themselves entertainment, when they go to court for getting saying the wrong address of a bad business and the good business sues them, or getting wrong facts, or wanting to hire a female, like they told me. They actually 3 weeks before I was let go, the news director allegedly, you got to put that in for lawsuit purposes, but Liz O'Hara told me, hey, the general manager, David Candelaria, said he wanted boobs at night and a younger woman. And I said, well, I could get a surgery and get a C or a D cup, but I'd look a little funny. So TV's really wacky.
So Can I ask you something? Because I ask everyone, and everyone thinks that you got fired because you're drugs or alcohol. How did they? How can they do that?
Well, they didn't even test me. Number one, you got to test
Right.
somebody. So when it came to filing for unemployment, they could not tell the state of Texas why they fired me. And the general manager, David Candelaria, this isn't allegedly because he called me on the phone. He fired me for calling corporate HR, and he thought that I was, quote, spreading rhetoric about people at the station, which meant him, which I didn't. But see, David had gotten fired from 26 for 3 sexual harassment court cases. And the Nexstar Corporation, who owns Channel 9, never did their due diligence and looked at his background.
Right.
So I didn't tell corporate HR that. I was just saying, hey, you know, it's kind of a bad atmosphere over at Channel 9. And they suspended me for allegedly, when I was sick. I was actually sick. I was throwing up in the commercial break on the air. But they fired me because I had the reputation of going out after work and having a few brews and watching live music, which I enjoy doing,
Right,
you know.
yeah.
But anyway, that's the real story. You're getting the real story with the names here on this podcast. But, you know, they couldn't fire me. If it went to court, they couldn't say that I was impaired on the air. They never tested me, nothing. But you know what? I was going out too much afterwards because they would tell me every day, Chuck, you suck. You're ugly. One general manager said, you have to put the 7-day forecast at the beginning of your weathercast. I go, no one in the world does that. But they would do things to make me angry to hopefully get me fired. But, you know, putting the 7-day in the front of the weathercast is like reading the end of the novel first or
Right,
fast forwarding through the movie. So anyway, moving on from TV. TV was great, but as our new sponsor told us, Limelight Real Estate Firm. Can I throw out some sponsors? But they're contracting. They build 100% custom homes. He told me, dude, you used your hypnosis for years and brainwashed the public into making yourself a brand name.
Right.
And that's what got I went through 7 general managers and 18 news directors in 23 years. That should tell you how tumultuous that TV station was and still is.
Right.
The federal FBI just showed up for the news director. His girlfriend was driving his car and being a coyote, running Central American immigrants, and was nailed in his car. And then Patty Mayes was just let go, and she just threw out all his dirty laundry, his whole arrest record for 5 times for smoking pot in the Circle K parking lot while he was on duty, Channel 9, all kinds of stuff, allegedly. And but you can look up at the criminal record. So these are the type of people that are in TV now because they're paying nothing. So, and again, so that's what's going on there. But this beautiful woman right next to me, she was the one who said, Chuck, wake up out of your funk. You don't need Channel 9 to succeed in this world. There's so many other things to do. But when we're stuck in this little box, we are only narrow-minded, especially as guys. And then when we get out of the box, we're like, oh, wow, no. So she made weather graphics that looked as good as TV.
Damn, that's bad.
And then Poe Toyota, Gerald Miller, the GM there, said, hey, Chuck, I'll sponsor your 7-day forecast. And so we had a sponsorship, and thanks to our sponsors, that's how we can bring it to you. We post 30, 35 times a day, right, Rosario? And I'll introduce her in 2 seconds here because she is the main reason why we turned it around. And we went from less than 9,000 followers on Facebook when I was with Channel 9. We're up to 37,000.
That's
followers as of today, 30,000 subscribers on YouTube. We just had our 7 millionth view in a year and 8 million view. And how many a year and how many months? 7 months? Year and 7 months.
So you guys partnered up with YouTube? Do they pay you guys for that?
Well, they said we have to have more original material. So we're going to be doing some Chuck Weather Geek science experiments, but we're already, Rosario's a professional chef and a pastry chef. Every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Chuck DeBroder Facebook, Certified Meteorologist Facebook, we live stream, and she makes dishes, 3 dishes that you can make in less than 30 minutes.
There you go, bro.
And she made Kung Pao beef this Wednesday with fresh vegetable lo mein and from scratch pecan pie. And there you go.
Getting me hungry,
But
man.
here, real quick, you don't need the headphones, but here, lean over here and tell them where I was at when Channel 9, they fired me. Can you believe the lack of huevos of the general manager to fire somebody who made a name for himself in El Paso, 23 years, 4 months on TV?
That's crazy.
I don't have a big ego, a big head. Physically, it's big, but it's, But anyway, tell him about that. Tell him what you did. You told me what? Here, get close to the mic. There.
Yeah, I told you that that you don't need nothing to be successful.
Right.
You just need yourself, and you need discipline, courage, and talent to do whatever you please
Right.
to do.
Hey, really good advice. And consistency, I might add, too, no?
Yeah.
You have to
I'm a
be
very
consistent.
disciplined person.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
See, that's what I lack.
I take very seriously everything.
Yeah.
If I want to learn something, I take the time to learn it. I'm not
So
afraid
you
to
master
learn.
it.
You know,
That's a good part. That's how you become so talented and helping Chuck out with
Yeah,
everything.
and Chef Rosario Zaragoza, and she's the main reason why I'm here. And then this quarantine's been great. I'm down to my fighting weight. Me and Mike
damn.
Tyson are gonna get back in the ring. We're, I'm down to 183.5 pounds, and before the quarantine, I was 198. And so, I've lost 14 and a half pounds in the quarantine and all that. And I had some drama there. Messed up my thyroid for a while, but I'm back. I'm back to...
You back
Yeah.
good.
So tell them about the graphics.
Oh yeah, Chuck the brother is very perfectionist. He
Right.
wants to have all the machinery that he has on that TV station. So,
Damn.
I need to, if I'm going to be on social media, I need a computer who does the graphics, a radar, this and that, the models, everything. He wants to have his own TV station there. And I say, you don't need that. And he say, no, yeah, because I cannot do, I need a designer for doing the graphics and everything. So one day he left the house and then he came back. And I said, look, there's your 7th day. And so he said, how you did it? And I said, I took design classes.
Oh, shit.
Because I graduated from communications, mass communications, and linguistics and semiology. So it was a requirement to take design for TV and radio. So we have to design our own programs and our everything. So I say, you don't need that. And so I show the graphic, and then 1 week later, Gerald Miller from Po Toyota say, I'm going to sponsor you.
That's badass. That's good.
So then we start doing, I start say, how do you want the other graphics? El Paso, Juarez, Las Cruces. And so we start adding graphics. And we got another sponsor for El Paso. And we have a few sponsors there. And but we've been increasing the charge of information for the public.
Right.
And right now we have health graphics, games for the people, cooking. We have now we're gonna have the section of experiments, crafting, and everything. Like I said to him, everything in this life take time to build up.
Exactly. Yeah.
It takes seconds to destroy it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and when people don't pay attention to those things, that's when it's the fall hurts more.
Exactly. You have to be ready, huh?
And just real quick, yeah, the second person to call us up, Alfredo Rios, over a Drive Auto Collision. They do paint, auto body, and mechanic, and he's a great guy. He was like, "Hey, man, yeah, I want to advertise with you." So he jumped on board. And then we had another sponsor that was a 3-month contract that turned into 9. And then, another sponsor that was like a 1-month contract that turned into 4. And then the COVID kind of canceled the little sponsored. But now we have a brand new one, Limelight Real Estate Contracting and Construction Company. And there are brand new ones as of this week or this past week. And so, you got to plug away. And I'm back to, I cold call businesses, and they're like, "Oh, hi, Chuck." And they, the older people can't wrap their head around social media. Right. But that's where everybody's at. I mean, look, exactly. Right now, the ratings on Apple App Store of the President Trump's app have gone down to nothing because all the kids from TikTok are angry, and they went on there and just devalued the app because, he couldn't advertise anymore on Facebook and all the others. So he made this app. And I just was reading that today, and just the force and power of the social media army is amazing.
Exactly. That's why everyone's jumping on it, man, because everyone's moving away from TV. It's very inconvenient, right? The commercials, the scripts, it's not original, and everyone knows it. Mm-hmm. I think people like to hear the real stories, what really happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and people, because I was quiet, because I thought, I'm going to sue and everything. And by the way, EEOC went and they didn't even show up at the TV station to investigate, but they took 1.5 years because they're federal employees and they've got a kickback job and good benefits. But they told me, you can sue. But, their Nexstar borrowed German money from Swiss Bank and Deutsche Bank. And they really technically don't own all the TV stations because they owe $4.6 billion. They borrowed to buy Tribune Broadcasting. And Sinclair was turned down to buy it, but Trump's FCC allowed Nexstar to then jump over Sinclair, over Fox National and CBS National, and now Nexstar is the #1 local TV station owner group in the world. Now, here's the problem with that. Local in the country, I should say, not in the world, but in the U.S. But if you own the media, if you control the media, you control the minds of the masses. Mm-hmm. And there was the little guy. He had an attitude. He had a short mustache by the name of Adolf Hitler, who said that you control the media, you control the minds of the masses. But look. Now, and see, that's what Hitler did. He said, don't believe the media. Everything is fake news. Well, where did we hear that? The campaign for the Third Reich, the rising from the ashes, the phoenix, was make Germany great again. Okay? That was the campaign slogan. So you look at that, and I'm not conspiracy. You can actually...
Yeah,
right?
No, you.
Am I true about that? And I'm not getting super political. No, I'm just saying that they're taking a playbook page out of Hitler's Mein Kampf in the way of how to control the people by saying everything you read is fake. Now, what? Well, no, he never said that. No, but he actually his campaign said the media was false. The media that was against him.
He used the media for grow up.
Yeah, and then he used the media because out of fear, then the media in Germany was afraid of what he said, and he used the media to grow. And so you can use the media on either side, political, left, right. I'm not, getting on sides. I'm just saying that the media is still powerful, but TV is not as powerful. It's online, and Facebook and the other social media platforms realize that now. So,
right. Yeah. Now, let me ask you, what do you think about this whole COVID thing happening, man? Do you think it's strange what's happening right now with the thing? Like,
Here, I'll let Rosario. 'Cause
I think the strange thing in here with COVID is that all the viruses, the new viruses, are originating in China. Everything is coming from China right now, and I think this is like a war between the United States and China, because the United States doesn't want China to conquer our market, which is conquered already. Everything that we have in our homes came from China, from Asia. And
Right.
so, and it's very weird that the bubonic plague that is right now in China, it originates in China. The COVID originates in China. But the problem is that they hide information, and we are paying the consequences of hiding information.
right.
Because now businesses are losing completely their profits. They're in bankrupt. People losing their jobs. People now believing in the disease that says a lie, but then when it happened, they say it's true. So I think this COVID came to change the mentality of many people, and some people open their eyes and others close it more. That's what it happened with COVID. I think I got it last year, even when it wasn't around. I got it like around September, and it was very bad disease, very, very bad
and
disease.
then I got it.
I feel it like I was going to die. I mean, it's painful. You cannot breathe. That temperature, everything. Like if you have broken bones, everything. And they told me, "Oh, you have pneumonia." And so now it results that COVID, when it's in the last stage, when it gets worse, is pneumonia. So
Oh, damn.
COVID is a virus. Viruses last 7 days,
Right.
7 to 14 days. That's the duration of the virus. After you starting getting problems with temperature and phlegm, it develop in your body as a bacteria, you know. So now you're not treating COVID, you're treating a pneumonia, which is not a virus, it's a bacteria. Pneumonia is a bacteria. So now people, this is the misunderstanding that they want to make us believe that it's COVID. COVID is like a flu, the flu, but it's a modified flu. But once you get in the hospital, intubated or in a ventilator, it's because you caught the pneumonia. They say, "Oh no, there's no medications for pneumonia." Of course, there are medications, and very, very powerful medication for pneumonia. But because they want to play their game that there's no cure for the disease, there's when people is paying the consequences of this disease. And so everything is about money. You
Right.
know, the laboratories, they want to discredit the old antibiotics. And now you see in Mexico, they are using something that is in your cough syrup. The dextromethorphan, that is a phlegm expeller, because you need to get rid of the phlegm, so you get rid of the bacteria in your lungs.
Let me ask you something. I'm sorry to stop you, but not too long ago we were reading that they were using some type of steroid, kind of, you said it, axamethasone or something like that, which I took like a year ago because I had surgery and they messed up with my anesthesia, so I was all swollen. And they gave me that steroid so the swelling could go down. And I was reading not too long ago or hearing that same pill can help COVID patients because it reduces the swelling in their lungs.
Yes, and they are using the old medications, when the President Trump came that, oh, you drink the
Yeah.
Clorox, that hydrochlorine. Well, hydrochlorine is used for malaria, but it's
Yeah.
Hydrochloroquine.
yeah, but it's the malaria is a worm disease, And in Mexico, we don't have that problem too much, because in Mexico there is always a campaign all year long that every 6 months you have to take albendazole to deparasite your body. Like you deparasite dogs, you have to deparasite yourself too.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
Because if you deparasite yourself, you're going to avoid future illnesses of your intestine, your stomach.
And if you go to what is, and I should be sponsored by Dr. Similatis Pharmacy, but you get albendazole, it's not that expensive, and you take it twice a year. And especially if you like sushi, a lot of fish have worms, and you get worms from no matter how much the strength of the wasabi is, it doesn't kill the worms, right?
Yeah. So you get albendazole is a pill that it costs you less than 50 cents, in Mexico. When
That's
people getting so sick in the United States, and I know somebody that gets so sick, and they couldn't find nothing until the worm get into his brain, and they say, oh, you have a worm in your brain, so you just need to take albendazole. And so when he get out and he say, just this pill, for 1 month, and you will be clear out. And he say, well, I was cured, and suddenly I want to suffer a heart attack because the bill was for $150,000.
Damn.
So when I saw how much they sold me the pill, I say, wow. And then I went to Mexico, and you could get it without
really
prescription. And they charged me a pill for $5,000. So I say, and here in Mexico it's in 50 cents. That's really business in the United States. So now he treats himself in Mexico because he say, I don't want to know nothing about the United States.
And I think even Mexico's level of how the healthcare system is higher than the United States too.
Yeah, in the private hospitals, none of the doctors could diagnose me. I had scarlet fever when I was a baby. Had scar tissue on my mitral valve. The doctor told my mom later on in life he may have to deal with something with his heart. But I was fine. I was healthy. But I had a strep virus attack that scar tissue on my mitral valve, pull my mitral valve apart. I stopped pumping water out of my body. I gained up 100 pounds in water weight, and my foot size tripled. Channel 9 still made me go to work. She had to walk me from the weather center, which was 10 feet away from the weather green wall, and I was out of breath, and they still made me go on the air. But anyway, I was in congestive heart failure. None of the doctors here diagnosed me correctly. Went to Mexico. One doctor at Central Medical thought it was the heart. Then I went to Angels Hospital, and long story short, they had the number one doctor in Mexico, cardiologist in Mexico, with some residents going around, and he said, oh, this guy's in congestive heart failure. So we heard that. We drove across. The hospital here kept me in an emergency room for 5 hours in congestive heart failure while I listened to the nurses flirt with the firefighters and order their lunch and then their dinner. Finally, Rosario came out of the room and said, hey, my husband's fucking dying here. What's up? Oh, you're still there? Oh, yeah. Oh, we're waiting on a room. So the cardiologist, Abraham Gonzalez, he's a great guy, Dr. Gonzalez, said, Chuck, why didn't you see me 2 months ago? I'm like, nobody diagnosed me until in Mexico. But the private hospitals in Mexico were way advanced. Like, they look like UMC looks now. But looks are deceiving at UMC because you've got first and second year residents practicing on you, okay? But we'll go back to the story. Dr. Lynn, the surgeon, wanted to do a surgery right away, but Dr. Gonzalez said, no, we got to get the water weight. Rosario had to stand in the hall and listen to them saying, I don't think he's going to live another 2 more days.
What?
So, that was tough. And so, long story short, this Dr. Lynn had just brought the surgery to El Paso 7 years before, or else I would have had to go to another city. He took the 3 mitral valve doors that looked like blown curtains in the wind because the water weight had caused my lungs to start failing, my liver, my kidneys, everything because of the water pressure, and had finally blown the mitral valves.
Damn.
So he took what was left over of the 3 doors, sewed them into one, and I don't have to have open heart surgery every 10 years because I don't have a cow or pig part or a mechanical heart valve, and I got a second chance. And but I went from 187 to 289 in water weight.
Oh,
and I went from 289 down to 157 in 9 days. So it screwed up my thyroid for many years. And they told me, oh, Chuck, you can take this thyroid medication. It's semi-radioactive. I said, there's nothing semi about radioactivity.
Right.
And now it would be good for Rosario because she could find me at night and not turn on the lights because I'd be glowing. But so I went from 157 to 248 because my thyroid, because I went back up in weight. And now I've gone from 248 down to 183.5 and I'm healthy. But through all these stories and about all that's going on, a change is good. It's all how you look at it, right? And if you want to change your life, number one, change your environment, okay? Change the way you go to work every day. Change your network of friends because they're not really friends. We throw that F word around too much. The friend word, most of them are acquaintances. You know how many people showed up when I was in the hospital that I thought were my friends? That I would go, I would go out to Cincinnati and have some beers with. No, they weren't around because Chuck couldn't go and have beers with them out at Cincy. And that's what I always think. People are always hating on what they don't want to see themselves because they'd always say, hey, Chuck, dude, I always see you at Cincy. I'm like, okay, first, dude, what does that say about you? Right?
Right.
You're always out at Cincy if you always see me. But I got really lucky, but you change your acquaintances. What's the saying in Spanish? I always mess up, but in English I say, show me the top 5 people you hang around with and I'll tell you what you're smoking. Right?
What you're smoking.
Right? But it's true.
But it's true that he put his work upon a disease. You know?
Above.
He didn't want to be treated because he didn't want to miss a day of work.
Damn.
So he getting worse because of him.
Right.
They charged just shy. We'll call it even. They charged $500,000 for my open heart surgery.
When in Mexico it was going to be $25,000.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. No, I have a story like that too. I remember my aunt. She cut herself in the hand. We took her to the emergency room at UMC, and she was like, "Well, how much is it gonna be?" She's like, "Oh, it's gonna. I think it was like 13,000." They told her. We took her to Mexico. Never mind. We took her to Mexico. I think it was like 120 with medicine and a vaccination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And stitches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my father suffered from an accident once in his work. He cut with a saw his elbow, and they took it to UMC. And they called me, and my mom called me and said, "Oh, your father is in the hospital and everything." So we asked, "Where is Mr. Zaragoza?" And they said, "We don't know."
What the hell?
And I said, "How do you know?" I mean,
They lost him?
He suffered a work accident, and they said, "Oh, we don't know. If you want to look all around." So I have to go all the emergency room, and I found my father to the end of the emergency room, and he was with his arm bleeding, still bleeding. And I say, "Since when you are here?" And he said, "I am since 10 in the morning. And it was 2 in the morning. And so I said, oh no, we are leaving.
That's
And
crazy.
so we bring it to the Centro Medico in Juarez.
Right.
And they say, why they didn't do nothing in here? And I said to them, oh, well, because they say they haven't a doctor. And so they saw my father and everything, and it said, well, it was $50 the whole
Damn,
bill.
dude.
And so with medicine and everything for infection, probably infection. And so my father got a bill from the hospital in here, and he has to fight back and say, you didn't do nothing, you didn't do. So they have to stop pursuing the payment. But they did a bill for $6,000.
Damn. That's a lot of money just to.
Yeah. And
It's
and my heart operation, they doubled and triple charged procedures. The insurance company found $187,000 in overcharges of that $500,000. $187,000 from Sierra Medical in Central El Paso. And then on the recovery floor in Mexico, they have a nurse that does just one thing. One nurse that only takes your blood. Another nurse that checks on all your machinery. Another nurse. In El Paso, Texas, at Sierra at that time, there were 2 nurses for 48 patients on the surgery, recovery, and recovery floor. And then the hospitals are now hiring nurses, and they're great. But they bring their traditions from their countries. But they're hiring nurses from Bangladesh, from the Philippines. I don't know. Maybe they're like TV now and paying minimum wage for nurses. But yeah, so that's what I learned. And then I still didn't learn because I allowed the TV mental, because, show business is rough. And I was on the El Paso Chamber Zoom meeting yesterday, and they were talking about bringing F. Murray Abraham from an old school movie called Amadeus. He won the Academy Award. He went to El Paso High School. And I remember him in the studio at Channel 9, and I said, so auditioning for movies is pretty hard. I bet you it's easier now that you won the Academy Award. He goes, no. He says, Chuck, if you can imagine surviving getting kicked in the nuts as hard as someone could kick you every day by walking into an audition, then you can survive Hollywood. But he says, even after my Academy Award, they go out of your way to diminish you and say, who are you? What? So, and that's how TV, there's a lot of people who couldn't be on TV that are in management, that are haters, and they want to make the people that are talent, their lives miserable, number one, because they're insecure. Number two, because they don't want them asking for more money. So now you don't need a TV station. We're doing a podcast right now with your equipment that you got, and it sounds just as good as any AM talk show.
Right. Yeah.
Back in the day.
It's just crazy how you have all these stories about the channel environment, and it looks like it's a business that should just go away already. Like no one really cares about it. I mean, you could tell they're trying to push like satellite TV even more, cheaper prices and all that, but people want truth. People want real. They're tired of scripts. I think.
Well, look at Bob Moore, who went to my first college, CSU Pueblo, and graduated, and he was editor of Pueblo Chieftain, El Paso Times twice, and worked for the Denver Post. He writes for the Washington Post. He started a nonprofit, online-only newspaper, and he's writing daily news that is more investigatory, more investigative than even the local newspaper that only has like one photographer now. I think
he's a hater.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's always attacking. I mean, when you are in this business and if you dedicate to media, I think one of the main rules in media, because I went to the school and they teach you the rules of the laws and everything. One of the rules, you cannot go against who create the laws or the rules, the norms. You know, you cannot go against that entity, which is the government, because soon or later it's gonna squash you if you continue attacking. And people like him and other people like they say, oh, it's fake news. I really have many people writing in our social media, oh, the numbers don't match up.
The COVID.
The
numbers.
COVID don't match. And sometimes I want to say, if they don't match, don't see it. You know?
Right.
They want that you put more numbers. You know, like I say, oh no, there are more, because when it starts the disease in here, they say, oh, you didn't put the nurse that passed away. I'm not the official authority.
Right.
You know, I just posting the official numbers.
Right.
I cannot do my own numbers. And this Bob Moore is always, oh, I found this mistake in here. The numbers are different in here. And I say, well, the dude should go work in the medical field.
or for the city of El Paso. And now what they're doing now is they're catching up on the numbers, because now the U.S. federal government and health department is saying, yes, this COVID's been around since last summer. Yeah, well, September. They're admitting September. In France, there was one gentleman, in May, that they now confirm had COVID last May, not this May, a year ago, May. I had a cough for 2 months. I got it. She got it when we were on vacation in Colorado at the end of August into September. I had a cough for 2 months into November, right?
Yeah.
I pretty much caught it at the end of September and had the cough into November, and I didn't have any signs of the flu. Well, now they're admitting, so now they're going back and taking numbers. Well, they're not really true COVID numbers, because people don't die of COVID. They die of the underlying causes that then cause them to get pneumonia, mainly, and other symptoms or other things like pneumonia, right? But pneumonia is the number one.
Yeah, pneumonia is the last stage of COVID.
Right.
You know? But you cannot take it as a COVID, because pneumonia is a bacteria disease and COVID is a virus disease. So once you got COVID, is 14 days, and I say doctors all around the world, I agree right now that once you have COVID, you're not going to have COVID again. But then you have, so it's a very misunderstanding thing that the same entity, the government, is confusing the public, so that now the public is like, I don't want to know more about this, because now the government say, now it's an airborne disease that it flies from the air, and before they say no, it's not, it's just from surface, and now it says it's airborne.
And then mask and no mask. And you never know what to do.
Mask or no mask. And they say, well, if you're wearing cloth mask, it doesn't protect you, because the air goes through your mask.
And now they're saying it's not for your protection wearing the mask. It's in case you're a carrier, it's for protecting against other people. And
now we're wearing the mask because it's protection from pollution.
Right?
Now, you know, this is one of the things that I want to clarify. Did you know that pollution could diminish your immune system?
Oh, yeah.
And your respiratory system. So you are more vulnerable when you are breathing all the pollution to catch any virus disease.
Damn.
So with the readings of pollution, that even with the quarantine had been reading high, we have more cases right now, because people say, oh, I don't need the mask, or oh, I'm going to a party, or whatever, you know. But maybe it's not the COVID. Maybe it was because the pollution was high in that time and you are breathing, and then you're drinking alcohol, and alcohol diminishes your immune system, pollution diminishes your immune system, so you are more susceptible to catch whatever is on the air.
Right.
You know, and the mask, yeah, it will help you at the moment for not breathing too much pollution, and provide to your lungs a little bit of relief.
Right.
You know, but because the pollution contaminates your lungs too, you need pure oxygen in your lungs to work fine. And when you are having your mask, so that's the confusing thing, that they are good or not good.
Right.
Because when you are breathing your own CO, you know, and then you have to again
Your own
breathe
waste.
out, and so you are breathing your own poison.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's crazy times we're living in.
It is.
And it seems surreal, doesn't it? And my dad is going to turn 82 July 13th. Happy birthday, Dad. And my mom is 80. But my dad doesn't understand he can't go to the restaurant in Colorado. They're more locked down than we are here in Texas.
Right.
And, he's, in the last lap of his long life, and he wants to go out and live it and do things. And that's the dilemma there.
That's the sad part, right? Like we have to, especially like in the summer where, you want to go out and interact and be, friendly and party, and you can't.
and then these are discriminatory disease because in Mexico, children and elderly people they're not allowed in shopping malls. They're not allowed in the stores. And so now the kids are 24 hours at home.
Right.
They cannot be out. I mean, if you are going to shop in something, it's just one person.
Right.
Before you take your kid, or so now that it's more complicated for people in Mexico because they have to leave the kids with an adult
Exactly.
taking care of them, because now you cannot carry it. And with the new law they passed in the state of Chihuahua, for me it's ridiculous too.
What law is that?
That only two persons can be in the car.
What?
Imagine if you have a newborn.
Hey, this is Rossaville here. We families are giant.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if you have a newborn, you have an emergency, and it happened already.
Right.
A girl who has twins, and the policeman put it a fine and took the car.
What?
And so they charged him $100 to recover her car. And when she recovered the car, the car didn't have a battery. And
What? They stole from her?
they stole the battery, and they say, well, it came like that. So he said, how can it came like that?
Right.
And so you say that law is absurd because, I mean, if in that case of the woman, she has twins. So how can you drive one twin, and where you're going to leave the other twin?
Right. That's crazy. Now that we're on this topic of Mexico, and you seem to be pretty knowledgeable about Mexico, what do you think about Andrés Manuel López Obrador?
I think, well, like all the presidents that Mexico has.
Right.
I saw his visit with Mr. Donald Trump, and it was like a romance meeting. He was saying good things about Andrés Manuel, and Andrés Manuel was saying good things about Trump, and then he I think both forget that Andrés Manuel attacked him and called him racist.
Wrote a book.
And many things about him. The country right now of Mexico is in very bad situation with the violence, the drug violence.
It is.
But that is not his problem, because he inherited that problem.
But like that time where they locked up Chapo's son and he let him go?
Yeah, he let him go because they didn't have the order, the court order to arrest him. It was in a legal way, because somebody saw him and said, "Oh, that's Chapo's son," and so they start doing, and so The problem was they released him because they killed many innocent people on that arrest.
On the raid.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And because they didn't have a court orders to arrest him. The court orders they were delivered 2 weeks after.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to let it go.
Right.
They criticize him so much because when the Chapo's mother asked him to make talk with Trump to let him see her son, and they criticize him because he say hello by hand and everything. They say you should not say hello to that woman by hand and whatever, you know. So they and everything in Mexico, like in the United States right now, is politics.
Right.
Everything is politics. Many people in Mexico is happy because he's taking care of from the poor people.
He raised the minimum wage, huh?
Yeah, he raised the minimum wage. And for example, this is the first time that kids have how to say, like a salary, you know, for going to school.
Yeah,
So-
for everyone too,
Yeah.
right? Not just you have to be smart.
So, and the elderly people, they have their like a retirement payment.
Right, yeah.
You know.
And it keeps going up every year.
Yeah, it goes and from this COVID, it doubles the retirement payment.
Right.
So, but right now there are many protests from people, especially for businessmen, but they belong to the opposite parties.
Right. To the neoliberals, whatever it calls them.
And because they call the fourth transformation, it's like the fourth Reich,
Right.
you know. And they say that he's like Hitler, but the coming of Hitler, you know, because he's earning the
Trust.
trust of the population,
Right.
and which is the low income population, which is the major part of the country. And once he is then there, he is going to destroy Mexico, right? But in Mexico, it's very difficult because we have something in Mexico that we learn from our wars,
Right.
you know, and we don't repeat the same patterns. And everybody who wants to fight against our freedom is going to be a stonewall.
Right.
So Andres Manuel, he's doing his best to clean the mess for many, many administrations, but it's going to be difficult with those type of stones that they, for example, the richest man in Mexico, what's his name?
Carlos Slim.
Carlos
Slim,
Slim.
yeah.
Carlos Slim. If you go back to the administration of Peña Nieto, he didn't pay taxes.
Right.
No,
That's what I'm. And then he's really good friends with AMLO, so I don't understand that.
Yeah, he didn't pay taxes years before, and now many people thought, he's gonna be a fight between Slim and AMLO, and he say, oh no, I'm gonna pay you all the taxes I owe you. Yeah, he paid $1,000 million in taxes to the government.
Oh, he
of
actually
Mexico.
did?
Yeah, he actually
okay.
did, and he forward another $2,000 million for
Oh,
the
wow.
following years.
Oh, wow.
You know, and many businessmen of the level of Slim are paying the tax. Walmart, which is a big supermarket, they didn't pay taxes before.
Right. Yeah,
So
I heard
now-
about that.
So now they are paying taxes.
Well, they did, but it was called a mordida to all the
Right.
politicians, right?
No, there was a law that if you invest in Mexico, you don't pay taxes for
Wow.
for as long as the administration is running, and if the other administration allows you, you're gonna. The only thing that you have to do in Mexico is giving jobs. That was the payment. But now today with Andres Manuel, you have to pay taxes. You know,
yeah.
because what is the benefit? You know,
Right.
you're giving very low salaries to the workers, and then you don't pay nothing. You know, so now all the big companies in Mexico are paying
They're
taxes,
doing-
but there are few businessmen that say, "Oh no, he's charging too much."
I like Televisa and all that, the TV stations in Mexico, TV Azteca and all that. Like, they're not. Well, didn't they fire the owner of what's that Mexican channel? It's not TV Azteca, it's the other one.
Televisa.
Televisa, yeah. Didn't they fire the CEO of that guy?
If you know Televisa, one part of Televisa belongs to Bill Gates.
Oh,
It
shit,
was
it does?
sold to Bill Gates when it was going to bankrupt.
Right.
And so Bill Gates owns, I think, the 51% of the company. So Mr. Emilio Azcárraga,
Oh, yeah, that guy, yeah.
he is just giving his name, you know. He's receiving a salary from
Right.
Bill Gates.
Mm-hmm.
So he was, Emilio Azcárraga was against what AMLO or Andres Manuel is doing.
Right, yeah.
And so now he changed his tune because Andres Manuel goes along with Bill Gates. So Bill Gates is funding some of the new hospitals from the army in Mexico. So they have ventilators and everything. So everybody is
That's a
getting a
trip,
piece
huh?
of cake, you know?
Damn. That's crazy, man. Like, do you ever think Mexico would fix itself?
I think, they arrested a few days ago the former governor of Chihuahua here in Miami.
Duarte or something?
Yeah,
Like that?
Duarte.
Cesar Duarte. And I say, well, the guy, stole $250 million. Yeah. But when he was on his term, on the 6 years he was there, he reduced the violence of the drug cartels.
Oh, he did?
Completely. Juarez was a ghost town in 2009.
Yeah, I
and 2010.
remember. No one at the Parque, Chamizal, no one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he reduced that, and people forget that part, you know. The governor of today and the president of Juarez,
Who?
my God,
Channel 44 family.
they both of them, they haven't done nothing for Juarez or for Chihuahua. The violence is skyrocketed
It's
in
going
all
up.
senses, you know. And they say, oh, it's because Duarte. I mean, Duarte is not there. And
Right,
when
he's
Duarte
gone.
left the government, when he left Chihuahua was in 20 crimes, you know, per month. And now it's 900 crimes per month. So
We're not
you
crazy.
cannot blame Duarte for what it happened right now. But now that he's arrested and they're fighting for the extradition to Mexico, now they are focused on that and they are forgetting about the other rest. Now they say because this weekend is decisive for Juarez and Chihuahua to go to the yellow light for more mobility in the city. I mean, I say that's ridiculous because Chihuahua and Juarez never stopped, never went into lockdown.
Yeah,
Never. And now they say, oh no, maybe we're going to go back to red, you know?
Yeah.
And so you say, but we never went to red. I mean, we are always in green. The only thing is that the restaurants and the gyms and everything, they are not open in Juarez. They open already the restaurants, but not the bars. And the gyms are going to be closed until next year.
Right.
And churches and all those places, they are closed until next year too. And so many people is losing money. But we never in lockdown.
Right.
Never.
Let me ask you another question. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say the current El Presidente of Juarez, I call him Mayor Pothole, but he has really been, in the time I've been here, 25 years, and knowing the mayors over there, he's probably the worst ever for the city of Juarez. I think so.
Right.
And what's his name again?
Armando Cavada.
Cavada. And he's part of the Cavada family of Channel 44.
Oh, sure.
But that's
And
how he...
thanks to Juarez, he built his second TV station in Chihuahua.
Yeah, he took money out of the coffers of Juarez and took that Juarez government money and built another TV station in Chihuahua City.
That's crazy, man. That's poor Mexico. I don't know, man, but I think that Andres Manuel could also step up the fight against crime. Because I used to watch Las Mañaneras, and I would hear him say, abrazos, no balazos. And it's like, I don't know, when you got people getting killed like that, I mean, don't you think you have to step in militarily as aggressive as you can?
Yeah, I think, but he's focused right now in earn the trusting of the low income people,
right?
Low and medium income people. And once he got that trust, I'm a profiler, and he's going in the maybe this is the second year of his term, and I think on the third year he is when you're gonna see the real action in the country.
You think so?
Because you cannot get in everything that you have in the plan right away, because you could scare people, and violence generates more violence. If you turn violence against these people, it's going to be a war. Right. So we are not in the condition to have a war in Mexico, because the situation.
But it's there already, though. I mean,
it's not a war completely, because it's a war between the rivals of the cartels. If you're not involved in that business, you are free. Unfortunately, when murder happens in Mexico, many people say, "Oh, it was innocent," or no, no. Nobody in Mexico goes
right.
and see and give you.
They don't want to waste a bullet on somebody that's not involved in their beef. And
right.
One example, there was a muffler shop up where we go, and there was an old man getting his muffler repaired at the shop. But this shop was working for one of the cartels and putting more than mufflers in a car, in vehicles, right? Well, they ripped off the cartels. The hitman parked in the fast lane, had his driver park, come out, and he put two in both the owners of the muffler shop, looked at the old guy, and just walked away, because he knows, number one, the old guy's not going to say anything. Number two, why kill innocent people? Here in the United States, that's what our mid-size and large cities are much more violent than Juarez ever was, because the crime's indiscriminate. It's next. They don't care if you're involved or not. They'll kill you in South Chicago,
right.
in East St. Louis, in Miami, off the Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Detroit, unbelievably nasty. And we're at war the same way Mexico is at war here. We just use better propaganda. We don't report it and put it out front. I was going to use all of this that we're talking about, from TV to Mexico and everything. Geddy Lee, Neil Peart, the best drummer in the world from the band Rush. But Geddy Lee sings Neil's lyrics that were taken from Shakespeare. But in the song called Limelight, says, all the world is indeed a stage, and we are merely players, performers and portrayers, each another's audience inside the gilded cage. So whatever is put in front of us is what we believe as the truth, even though we don't take the time to look to the side or to the back of us. And so, all this here, the U.S. was pointing fingers when Juarez was violent, but sometimes you need to look at your own backyard first.
Exactly.
Right?
And then why is Mexico violent, right? I mean, why are these people trying to create these drug routes and stuff over here? Because, I mean, they're trying to supply this country, with what? the drug addicts need. And I think it's a problem of both countries. It's not just pointing the finger at Mexico and saying, "Oh, the drugs come from here." Well, yeah, but
who consumes the drugs?
Exactly.
If you is the law of offer and demand.
Supplying.
Exactly.
And so if you offer a product and you have a consumer, so you're gonna have a business.
What do you think about Portugal that legalized all drugs and not only legalized them but provides them for you?
Yeah, there in Europe they have that system that it works perfectly. They don't have that type of crime like here. They have the slavery, white slavery, sexual thing.
The
That
sex
is
trade?
the most sadness war
Right.
in the world.
Right.
For me, that's more
Jeffrey
sadness
Epstein.
than drugs.
What they call it, Fuck Island?
Yeah, and so, but yeah, I think drugs should be legalized because it's a business, and nobody puts you on to choose to get high. So it's like cigarettes.
Right.
You smoke and you go to the store, you buy your cigarettes, and you don't bother anybody. That business is paying taxes and it's creating jobs, legal way and everything. So I think drugs should be the same.
Right.
Because you will pay taxes, you will give jobs to people, and it will be the choice of everyone to be drug up or not.
Right, and then these illegal drugs are the same drugs that your psychiatrist is giving you.
Yes.
Just made by the guy in the corner.
Yep.
So
So the number one business in the world is the legal prescription drug companies. They're the number one money-making business in the world.
Right.
Used to be number two. The illegal drugs used to be number one. Now, legal drugs have fallen off. But, with cigarettes, they are the original methamphetamines. The
Right.
cigarette companies have turned a Marlboro cigarette into basically meth with the arsenic, the rat poison, everything they add to it. A buddy of mine worked for Marlboro, and he says you walk into the plant, it smells like chocolate. They are the number one purchasers of Hershey's chocolate in the world because they soak, then they're already poison soaked that they know of like 380 main chemicals that they put in to get you addicted even more. But then they, on top of it, the nicest thing they put in is chocolate.
Yeah, and
They put chocolate in cigarettes?
it's a new drug.
Yeah.
Chocolate. If you consume a lot of chocolate, liquid chocolate in a warmer way, you could get high.
Oh, shit, I didn't
It's
even
a
know.
cheap way to get high with chocolate. But at the end,
You're going to see a line around Dunkin' Donuts. You're out of chocolate, man?
No, and I also heard that it's really not the drugs killing people. It's like, what is it, fentanyl or something? Have
Yeah.
you guys heard about that? Also from China?
And they caught a shipment in Juarez.
Of
with
fentanyl?
And it was a few months that they offer in the pharmacies.
In downtown Juarez, they had we have fentanyl on a sign
Like
in English outside the pharmacy, and I noticed at first. I'm like, "What the hell?"
What do you mean? They're advertising fentanyl?
Yeah, for $5 you could get
What
4
the
things for
hell,
$5. And I say, really? And now it's illegal, but it was legal.
But it kills you. But eventually, if you choose to be a drug addict, everything in moderation is fine. It's when you
It is fine.
when you do things overboard. Now, fentanyl and stuff like that, even in moderation, it can kill you. But
I even heard people do that claim that taking meth saved their lives. And it's has to do more with like anxiety and stuff. You know what I mean? Because he said he stopped afterwards. But that it's almost like that pill that the psychiatrists give you. I don't know what the name is because I'm very ignorant about that. But
Prozac, Xanax,
yeah, all that it says it does the same thing.
But here's the thing, and if you change your state of mind, you change your life. And people think they need drugs, alcohol, whatever. But that's why I got into the power of the mind and hypnosis, and
Right.
I've been doing that for 15 years. But the thing is, people used that to change. But was it actually the meth? Was it actually the Prozac?
True.
Or did they, just like my key to success is practice and then persistence and enthusiasm, did they actually change their life? Because then the placebo effect
Right.
kicks in and they think, oh, this is really helping me. But then they notice, gee, I feel the same way if I don't do meth. I feel the same way if I don't do Xanax. So,
Right.
I think we have our big, powerful drug in our system, which is adrenaline.
Right. Right.
And when you combine it with another drugs, it's just you're feeling the effect of adrenaline.
Right.
The problem with drug addict that is everything psychological, more psychological than physically. Because there are some people, and I knew people that they say, oh, I need cocaine, and they still not inhaling the cocaine, and they just starting feeling fine. And I say, what? I mean, you're still not putting in your nose and you feel fine.
Right.
I mean, that's psycho. And so I think the drugs are more psychological than that needed by your body. Because once you develop the tolerance to your body is going to say, well, you didn't give me nothing. That's when it comes the overdoses. Why? Because your brain is telling, I need more, I need more, I need more. And so it's not that you need more, it's that psychological effect that you want to be in that, because you are feeling the low process that is running out in your system. And so you want to be in that level all the time. And it's something psychological, And when you are in drugs, even if they give you a painkiller, and it reduces your pain, right?
Right.
So it's the same effect with drugs.
Right.
It reduces your pain, and they say, oh, the doctor tell you, every 8 hours you take the painkiller, so you don't feel the pain,
Right.
right?
But that's nothing but cocaine and stuff.
Sometimes,
Lidocaine and all that.
yeah, sometimes, there are pains that they are like a toothache or a migraine. Yeah, you have to have a certain drug to reduce the pain. But the other part, you have to tell your body, relax.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
have to relax. But that's why the doctors, when they prescribe painkillers, they have to wash out. They have to see the personality of that person.
But they don't. I was in the hospital not too long ago. They give it to you like nothing. Like every 4 hours, I was able to take the highest. I think it was lidocaine every 4 hours.
wow.
And no questions asked. I just
You see, yeah. And here's the thing, real quick, and what Rosario said is 100%, and that's what there are doctors that use hypnosis and have no anesthesia before surgeries throughout history, and they still do it. Hypnosis in dentistry. And all this stuff, because a lot of the pain response is all mental. But now I thought of something funny going back to the chocolate. But chocolate fires the same synapses in your brain as love, right?
yeah.
And the same sort of chemicals that fire off. But can you imagine being a chocolate drug dealer in 110-degree high like we're going to have tomorrow? Your product would just melt all over your car seat.
Right.
It'd be obvious if you were pulled over. Hey, you got chocolate in the car? No. Anyway.
And then you have to be very mental to take drugs like methamphetamines or other kind of drugs.
What do you mean
Because
mental? Like crazy?
Yeah,
Okay.
because, I mean, you need, and forgive my language, but you need to be stupid
Right.
to put that thing in your body when it's builded with rat poison, with
Right.
battery acids, with so many, with Clorox, with ammonia, with antifreeze. And so you say, how can you put that in your body?
Right.
And they get addicted, and then you see a person who is a meth, and you right away say, that guy is a meth, because your skin, your teeth,
Right.
everything. And they say, I feel good, but you don't look good. I mean, one thing is to feel good, and another thing is to look good.
Right.
And so what we have to look is to have a balance, is to to say, I feel good, I look good, and I want to be good.
But
You know.
did you see that rat experiment too, where they would put first they put one rat in a cage with water, regular water, and then the other water had Coke, and the rat would choose the Coke, right, all the time. And so they were like, you see, we're prone to be Coke addicts, right? It's just what we are. But then some other scientists, I forgot what year, later said, well, wait a minute, what type of cage are you putting this rat in? So they put those rats in like a rat heaven, right? Play, they put a lot of girls for them to have sex with, and it was rat heaven, and they didn't touch the water with Coke. So you don't think that also humans is like the environment, what type of environment you're seeing, or?
And here's the thing with pills, going back, and then I'll tell you about the environment. It's all about our conditions, but have you ever seen somebody grow up dirt poor with abusive parents, with alcoholic parents, and they grow up to be a super successful basketball player or somebody, businessman who doesn't touch drugs and all that? But then you see somebody and people blame it on environment. Oh, well, it's because I grew up poor. No, it's because you kept that mentality. Like, if you're in debt, don't focus on the debt. Focus on making more money.
Right.
Don't focus on the negative. But they did experiments on pills, and the drug companies know this. Do you know red pills are 80 times more effective? But if they put the capsules are even more effective, and if they make the capsule half yellow and half red, that's the most effective mentally to a patient. And it could just be a sugar pill, a placebo. But these patients are told everything from it's Xanax to a painkiller to whatever. And a certain normal percentage of patients that's over 50%, it's like 70%, say that the placebo pill works better than the real pill.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so that goes back to the rats and the conditions. But really, if you're happy in life, you don't need that extra stuff you think you need. Mm-hmm. But even when life doesn't treat you well, again, change your environment. Okay? Change your environment, change your network, change your life. Go find rat heaven for you, right?
Well, let me ask you something. Don't you think that for some people, though, there might be some type of mental disability, like, for example, cannabis, right? You don't think like there's people that might actually need it?
There are all type of human beings, like Plato used to say.
Mm-hmm.
All of us live in a cave, right? And outside that cave is the external world.
Mm-hmm.
So you live in your own world. And then somebody from that world come to your world and tell you, oh, look, there's a beautiful river over here and whatever. So what stops you to go to see the beauty of life? The fear, the condition of society. I mean, if you go over there, you need money, you need this, you need that, many things. Because you listen to the ones who are in the same world like you. So Plato always say you have to walk out that world by yourself, not listen the ones that are by your side. Because if you listen the ones that are by your side, they always drag you down. Right. Always. You always be down because they don't want to make you succeed. They want you be in the same levels as them. So
that's true.
There are many people in this world, and you see it with kids when they go to the school, the bullying effect. They grab a little kid and they abuse it and everything. But if you put that kid that is an abuser by itself and then you put another one that is more abuser, that kid is going to perform like the kid he abused.
Right. Yeah.
Why? Because the kid that is an abuser and he surrounds from people like him. The bullies are always around like people like that. But put them by themselves and they're more pussy than in reality. It's like when you see the movies and they say, oh yeah, I'm very good and whatever. But then you you see in the movies, because the movies are the reflection of the reality, right? And sometimes we say, oh, it's very fantasy, that movie, and the fantasy is squashed by the reality. Look, the COVID right now. I mean, we saw movies that they were like zombies and empty cities and everything. Now you see with this COVID, New York empty,
Right.
Los Angeles, China empty, everything, and then you say, "Oh my God, that I saw that in the movie," and we thought, "Oh, it's far, far away." Yeah, but those people who does those things, they are there to leave that world and say, "I want to teach them what I saw," you know. But all of us are conditioned by fear. I'm afraid to go there because you are conditioning yourself to say, I like to play drums, but I don't know, maybe my feet. You right away put excuses
Right.
for not doing
But
things.
don't you think that goes back to how you were raised as a child?
Somewhat, yeah. But, again, fear, false evidence against reality, false evidence appearing real. It is all just made up in our subconscious mind, our fantasy world. We spend time. But bullies are the most insecure people in the world, and people that are racist, people that want to blame other people. It's because they see the same faults in themselves and they want to go look over there. It's their fault because they don't want anybody looking at them.
And yeah, what you say is because in the way that you've been raised to, you know. But there are many of the successful or the many of the all the things that we enjoy. There, if you see the story behind those people who create all the things that we are using right now to produce this podcast, they were people that they were in an environment that they, no, you're crazy.
Right.
You're not gonna make it through. You're expect that little box. It's not going to be worth it for nothing.
Right.
I mean, there will be always somebody to tell you,
bring
you
you
are a
down.
piece of shit. You are a piece of shit, and you're not gonna succeed. And if you listen that, you're not gonna succeed.
Exactly.
You have to step on and say, I'm going to succeed. I don't care. And it's a rule when Plato and Aristotle and Socrates say, you have to be yourself and you have to defend your own truth. Because if you let someone else to tell you what is true, that's when you are living a lie, a Sophia, That's the name, a Sophia. Sophia is a lie, And
That's my niece.
so that's the philosophy, the philo of the
Right.
edge of a lie. When you allow somebody to tell you what is the truth over your truth. So
Right.
if somebody tells you you're crazy, well, that's what you think, but I think I'm right.
Yep. My dad was afraid because he grew up in an environment where he was competitive with 8 brothers and sisters. And he said, if you didn't eat fast enough and they grew up poor, your brother or sister on the right or left of you would finish your plate, right? But they would diminish each other. And that's kind of how, bringing it back full circle to TV, that's how they treated the talent that had personalities, because they don't want you to succeed and they don't want you to ask for more money. You would think a TV station would want somebody with personality that somebody would want to watch. But my dad would tell me, don't go to Lubbock, Texas. What if this happens? What if, I might go out the front door and get struck by lightning. You don't know. Don't let, and then, or he said, well, I should have not gone into that career. Well, as Jim Rohn and then Tony Robbins, who Jim Rohn was his mentor, said, we should all over ourselves. You know, we should have, could have, would have. Yeah. Stop using those words. Stop using the word try. Oh, I tried that. You know, try is to fail with honor. If you were having a party here, Ivan and Daniel, and your buddy says, oh, I'll try and make it. Are they going to make it to your party? Probably not, right? And so, again, it's our words that we use, but if we grow up around somebody like that, it sticks in our subconscious. From birth to 8 years old are the most impressionable years of our lives. Used to say from birth to 7. Now they say 8. But you get, you know, that's why sons and daughters of alcoholics statistically become alcoholics. Well, they choose to live that lifestyle. But in the same way, it was impressed upon their mind. But there's many sons and daughters of alcoholics that said, hell no. I don't want to grow up and put my kids through that. So it's all how you represent it in your mind.
It usually doesn't happen. Like, well, I took some psychology classes, and there was also this experiment, right, where there was this mom with this child. This mom was a constant smoker, and they followed her all through the life, and she would tell her, every time she would smoke, she would tell her son, don't do this. It's bad for you, right? So she would smoke. Don't do this. It's bad for you. Well, guess what the kid started doing with his own kids when he grew up? Exactly the same thing, right? Don't do this. It's bad for you. So it's I think it's really more what we see. We're visual people. We're very...
And that's actually called the nocebo effect. There's placebo and then nocebo. So when in TV, we had a dumb news director that would put on the door for ratings, don't screw up. Well, you know what your subconscious mind sees? Everything after the don't. So in your it says screw up. And guess what? We all screwed up because they subconsciously don't smoke. Don't do this. It's bad for you. Well, all the little kid's mind hears is don't do this. It's bad for you. But they're like, don't do this. All they hear is do this.
Don't you think that the media does this when, like, for example, right, there's this new drug and no one that I know ever heard of it, but then the TV comes out saying, this is a new drug, everyone's doing it, and all the kids are doing it. And when I was younger as a kid, you're like, wow, I need to do that. So it's kind of like, it's not real what they're telling you, but they're making it real somehow. No?
Yeah. Well, you know, Nancy Reagan's campaign was just say no to drugs. Okay. But in the nocebo effect, all people heard was drugs. Okay. And so, you know, and that was like cocaine, ville and a half. That was when the coke business, but then you had Manuel Noriega and the CIA and trading drugs for hostages, for guns, for money. And the Tom Cruise movie that we watched, that was a true story about the drug dealer who flew into Mena, Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the cocaine for money for drugs in Noriega. That's the true story all about that. But as governments of the world, we're the biggest drug dealers in the world. Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, when somebody say, don't do this, don't do that, that I think the right thing is, don't do this because this is going to affect you in your health. It's going to, you're going to put in examples of people how they end. Look, you're going to end like these people if you're doing so much drugs. You're going to end like these people. The campaign of the cigarettes that don't smoke, that they, I was, and then they come.
That's an advertisement.
Yeah, and they put me, I don't know what it hurts more, that they take out my catheter or they whatever. And you say, that did the cigarette? Because then you see around you, because I grew up with the smokers, and then you see my grandmother smoked until 105.
Right.
And then you say, I never saw my grandma with no teeth, with a hole in her chest. And so then it makes you daft because they create so much dramatization about the cigarette. When you grow up and you see many people smoking, and then you don't see that image.
Right.
But they then don't explain you, but that person did drugs too.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Do you know what I do in hypnosis to help people become a non-smoker? I just associate pain of loss, period. People go away from pain and seek pleasure, right? So mentally, they think the cigarettes are giving them pleasure. So I say, who do you love the most in your life? Oh, my 4-year-old daughter. Imagine her getting run over by a truck every time you grab a cigarette. No, and it sounds it sounds just nasty and just uncaring of Chuck. But you know what? Every time they grab a cigarette, they get the same feeling as that mental image I gave them of some sort of pain. Or imagine your 3-year-old around your coffin because you died, okay? So you take it away from them because, we seem, number one, there are people that we all think we're invincible until we almost die, right? And then after that, I even still thought I was invincible after the heart thing, right? So, sometimes, when you associate it with losing somebody else, when you associate it with pain, and I hated to be, and again, I excuse anybody listening, that's a terrible thing to say, oh, your son or daughter is hit by a truck. I didn't mean that in that way, but some way, that's the only way that you can get people to listen to stop doing something that's bad for them, is for them to lose and see people around them that they love sad, right?
Damn, that's still just kind of scary though. Putting that type of idea,
No, but I say also, imagine your black tar-filled lungs. Your clothes smell for days. Your closet smells, right?
Yeah,
the smell of it.
Bad.
And then I put all those images. I put all the feelings in. And then if they still don't stop smoking, then I'll say, imagine your 3-year-old around your coffin crying and your wife because you died. So again, they're like, oh, okay, if you put it that way, then yeah. But it's our subconscious mind. Right now, we're all in our subconscious mind. 86% of our day, we're in our fantasy world.
It's most.
Yeah.
What do you think about psilocybin and helping people, like hallucinogens and stuff? Have you heard that they're helping people stop smoking and people cure PTSD coming back from the war, that magic mushrooms and ayahuasca and all that it really does help the brain.
Everything in I always say human beings are suicidal by nature. All of us
really? You think
are
that?
suicidal by nature. The people who smoke is suicidal by itself.
Okay, I see that. Yeah.
The one who is speeding the car is sooner or later is suicidal by any moment. It's just a little bit of luck and you're gonna get what you want. The people who cross the street with headphones, not listen the noise, everything. You don't listen, you are suicidal. And I always say, people is suicidal. Those people who always say, oh no, suicide is a very bad thing that human being does and whatever you want. I always say, stop judging people who take their life. At least that person has the balls to finish what he doesn't want in their life. We don't have that balls because I do doing drugs every day. Think I'm invincible, like nothing is going to happen to me, and I'm suiciding slowly. Suiciding slowly. And the other person, right away.
Now, with the PTSD and the mushrooms, it's all about change, right? Remember I said change your environment, change the way you think. What the hallucinogenics do is they change the same 30 to 60 second movie the people that are depressed or have anxiety play over and over and over again in their mind of the past. Well, guess what? Until they invent a time machine, and now NASA's admitting that there's a dual universe and everything else, so maybe it's not too far-fetched. But until they do, you can't go back and change the past. You can't go back that you saw your buddy die in a war. You can't go back. But here's what the hallucinogenics do. They change your focus from focusing on the past to opening up your focus of maybe what you can be. It could be a distorted image of you. I did mushrooms once and I thought I was Native American. And,
Maybe you do have some.
Yeah, maybe. But, and people, Native Americans, trip on peyote up at Chaco Canyon up in northern New Mexico. But again, some people do peyote and they die on the first try. It all depends on your genetical makeup as well. But do I think it helps? If the person believes it'll help, it'll help. Yeah.
Everything is on you. If you want to change yourself for something better, it's on you. I mean, somebody could tell you, oh, eat those mushrooms and you're going to feel very, very good. And if you believe that mushrooms are going to be your cure, that mushrooms are going to be your cure. If you believe that chocolate is going to make you happy, chocolate is going to make you happy. Everything is on your mind. How you transform the pain into a love. How you transform your anger into happiness or joy. I mean, everything is on us. There are some people who, unfortunately, they are very influencer. They allow other people influence on them and determine how it's going to be your life. I mean, everybody has dreams. We have dreams, goals, everything. We put some goals in our lives, and sometimes when we don't reach that goal, we frustrate.
Right.
And we say, oh, and we don't blame ourselves.
We blame others.
No, I didn't get my goal because that was very envy. And they don't like me because I was more beauty and the other one opened the legs, and that's why I feel And so when that happened, we have to be responsible of what we conquer in our life. We have to learn not to blame anybody about what is happening in our lives.
It's crazy how we're able to lie to ourselves and believe it.
Yeah, we lie to ourselves. We always say, we didn't get it because that guy was telling so many bad things about me. I didn't get the job because that guy looked at me like if I was poor or whatever, And so when we start blaming everybody and not blaming ourselves, that's when we fail.
Right.
Well, and Ted Turner says, always set a goal that is just out of your reach, because then you always have something to live for.
Right.
Now, a lot of the movie stars, you're like, why did he commit suicide? Why did he go off he was so talented.
No more purpose.
Right? And do the drug overdose. Well, you know what? Once you reach your goal, you have to set more goals. Otherwise, you self-sabotage. You sabotage yourself to then get yourself out of the goal that you spent all this time and all this effort achieving. So you should always have something to reach for. And maybe it's a goal that it'll take you years to reach, or you may not. But, it's not really the achievement of the goal. You need to value the climb towards the goal,
Yeah, exactly. Have you heard of Jordan Peterson? The psychiatrist, he says that, right? He says that they have seen that what makes people happy is working towards your goal, and that they see that once you get there, it makes people sad. Like, it's not really achieving your goal, kind of like what you're saying, that's really gives you that happiness. It's working towards something all the time, with right purpose or whatever you want to call it, that keeps you happy and moving.
They need to have counselors for Olympic winners, for the Michael Jordans of the world and stuff
or
like that.
Child actors.
Yeah, for sure. Because, once you achieve that goal, you got to set more goals, man. And, I have a passion for weather and meteorology. But I also have a passion for the power of the mind and studying psychology and hypnosis. And I've combined the two, but you always need to, number one, have multiple streams of income nowadays, because you can't just rely on your 9-to-5 job.
Right.
You have to start side hustles on the side hustles,
In the land of the free, man.
Yeah. But, you always have to do something you love, like I said in the beginning, and then it's, you do something you love as a career, and then it's not a job that you're regretting to go to every day, and set a goal in your job. And if this, that's one thing. At first, I blame the millennials for only staying less than 2 years in a job. Did you know, on average, they only stay less than 2 years at any job? But in the same way, they're like, F you, asshole insecure manager. I'm going to achieve my goal somewhere else. And some of them do say that.
I was a millennial all the time.
Yeah, exactly. or really, what the millennials get a bad rap, it's because, like, dude, I just can't get up that time in the morning to go, or whatever, but that's just called maturity, right?
Yeah.
Some people, and it doesn't matter what generation you're in, think the world owes them, and someone should be coming right now and knocking on the door and giving each of us $1 million.
Right.
Okay. Now that would help make our life easier.
Exactly.
But again, if you don't change your mindset, how many lottery winners 5 years later are just as poor or poorer than before they won the lotto? Right?
Worst off, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that
or-
happens.
And then you say, how come you lost $300 million? And you say, how come?
Now, you could be like MC Hammer and just have too big a crew. And, he was too legit to quit. And sometimes we have to pray just
And
to
he couldn't
make
be
it today.
touched.
Yeah.
And you couldn't touch
You
him, man.
can't touch this. Well, everybody touched your wallet, and now you're poor.
Yeah. Nah, man, no. I have a question about meteorology. Once we could go back to it. How does that work? Do you really... Is it really your decision what you tell the people, or do you have to follow like the main weather authority of the
and
country?
she's always telling me, hey, go back to your... And here, who was it that played for San Antonio Spurs that was called Mr. Fundamentals?
I don't know.
Gosh. It'll come to me. Look it up on Google. But this player would go and do 1,000 free throw shots every day and work on the basics, right? Mm-hmm. Once you get the basics down in life, then all of a sudden we tend to forget what got us there, right? And as long as you keep a solid base, you'll do good. Now, getting back to meteorology, I got used to looking at things that were already done for me at certain times in my career. And even once now, she's like, hey, don't follow the weather service. They were 5 degrees off yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got people coming, and God bless them, they work hard, but they have more tools available to them, but they get into the easy street mode, right? Work on your basics. So we look at pressure levels. I've been going this high, haven't I, for a week, and I still haven't gone higher enough. And the weather service was still going 101 last weekend for this weekend, and we're going to hit 110 tomorrow. And I went 110 as of yesterday, but I've been going 109 for Saturday for pretty much most of the week, right? Because it's based on the basics, on the pressure, okay? So here's a metaphor for pressure. Temperature is the measurement of the speed of air molecules, okay? The faster the air molecules move, the warmer the temperature. That's why when people say, oh, wind chill, we always think, but wind actually keeps the temperature up because it speeds up the movement of the air molecules. Now,
it's not like inertia where you rub.
Now, inside a balloon, when you blow up a balloon, okay, what kind of pressure is that air under inside the balloon? Low or high pressure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
High, no?
Yeah, you're right. You win. We need a bell. He wins. Okay, you win a gift certificate for Applebee's down the street.
Hey, I'm hungry.
Now, your hamburger may be half cooked, but you're going to... Anyway, so inside the balloon, it's under high pressure. Mm-hmm. When you pop the balloon, what does the air do? Rushes out to where there's lower pressure. Now, that's one of the causes of wind, right? Okay, is the difference of pressures. But inside that balloon, the air molecules are moving faster. So the temperature inside the balloon that's in the compressed air is warmer. Okay? So high pressure, upper level high, is pushing down. It's sinking air. It's compressing the air, therefore warming up our surface temperature. So if we look at the lines of constant pressure, okay, which planes fly on, right? So if you've ever been on autopilot, they fly at a certain pressure. And when they hit a low pressure trough, the plane drops. I've actually been in a 19-seater that dropped like 1,000 feet. And it was worse than any amusement park ride I'd ever been on. And my friend at the time looked at me and said, dude, you look like you're a ghost, because all the color went out of me because, you dropped. But again, wind is under high pressure, air is under high pressure, wants to go to where there's lower pressure. Or I use the metaphor of a ball on the Franklin Mountains. Here in El Paso, Texas, we have a mountain that divides the city. Wind out of the west, it's like a roller coaster or a ball. Once it goes down the east slopes of the Franklins, what happens to the speed of the air?
Oh, it gets higher.
Well, it gets hot. It warms because the wind gets faster. If you push the ball down the eastern slopes, it's going to get faster rolling down the hill. Same sort of physics are involved with wind, right? If we get an east wind in the winter, which we do, the trees are bending over on the west side, right? Okay? So that's all about the basics of wind and meteorology. But now the Weather Channel, AccuWeather, right now, last month for El Paso, there's something called forecastadvisor.com. You can see between the Weather Service, a digital forecast, and all the online services, who's the most accurate. This last month, it was the Weather Channel, and then they bought their main competitor, Weather Underground. They own them both. And they used to have the same temperatures on both, but now they vary them. So then you can be more right. Gosh, I don't know if it's going to be 74 or 77. Why you go 77 for the low on Weather Channel, and then you go lower on Weather Underground. But they were the top two most accurate for lows and highs in El Paso. And AccuWeather is up there. And then this place now, last month was Foreca, another service, Deveta of Deutschland, Germany, is going up there in their service. But I look at all these models, and the easiest thing is saying, okay, who was the most accurate yesterday? Well, that's probably what's going to happen tomorrow. And it's called the persistence forecast. But if you say, oh, it was 78 yesterday, it'll probably be 78 tomorrow. You may be right for one day, but then you go 78 for the next day, but then there's a push of cooler air from the northeast, and all of a sudden the low was 69. You're going to be way off on the low, right? So again, in life, like in weather, you don't forget the base. Work on the fundamentals. Get those down first, and then we go. Like to your dog here who just says, I love Rosario, and all these people are cool now. And what's your dog's name?
Chato.
Chato?
Yeah.
Hi, Chato. Oh, I heard their name.
Yeah. He likes feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. But with weather, I do my own forecasting. And I tend to be more accurate. Lows are tough in this city. And how am I doing? All right. She's my toughest grader. That's another thing, too. And with fear that's imposed by people in your family or people you know, pick out one person you trust that will tell you like it is without being super cheerleader or super negative. Listen to that person and ignore everybody else. And, but really the number one person you need to listen to is yourself.
Yeah.
Because
no one knows best.
we're and guess what? We're going to screw up. And don't beat yourself up for failure is the best way to win. Learn from your failures. Write the 5 things you learned from failing. I threw the International Taco Fest. She was with me. I lost $60K of money I didn't have. I had 12 bands. I had the best stage sound. I still have bands that played that fest saying, dude, when are you going to put on another event? That was the best stage monitor sound we'd ever had on even big city tours that they went on, right? I had a rave stage. I had carnival rides, which now I'm thinking back, gee, I should have got more insurance for them because some of these carnival rides have been around since 1950, and you've got methamphetamine Ed running them, and he's been up for 5 days. And, but anyway, I charged $5 a person when we went into our depression. It wasn't a recession, it was a depression. And some people say we're going into that now because of all the business shutdown. But that was in 2009 that I threw that event. But guess what? I beat myself up for it. Well, it was a great weight loss program and stress. I weighed less than I do now. But you know what? I had people calling me, throwing events in El Paso for years, asking me what not to do. Because all of a sudden, by getting ripped off, I became an expert in the field. And I should have charged those other people money. Now, as an entrepreneur, I say, oh, gosh, I'd like to do it. Today we're here for free because I like helping out people that are like myself.
We appreciate it.
And helping out. But, if this was sponsored by Pepsi, I'd say, hey, throw me a bone. Here,
Right.
And Chato heard that. Yeah. Treat.
What?
Bone? What? Dinner?
Oh, yeah, he loves treats, bro.
So we said we'd talk for an hour. We're over 2 hours now, but maybe we can chop this into a couple shows, right?
No, we just go put it, man. But let me ask you one last question. Talking about mental health, what do you guys feel about that shooting that happened at Walmart?
I think it was sad that somebody out of the city came and shooting all those people. But at the same aspect, I think it was over dramatized, in the way that many people get benefits from that shooting. And the ones who were involved, they didn't get nothing.
How so? What do you mean? They got benefits?
All the money that they raise, and that until today, I don't know where it goes. The families didn't get nothing.
They got nothing.
And they built supposedly
a monument.
A monument that it didn't happen there. It happened over there on the other side,
Right.
And so I think it was sad, but in the way that every tragedy make you see the reality of people, like this pandemic. Now you see the true color of people,
Right.
I've been seeing more aggression, more violence, more insensibility, more people that I don't care about your well-being. I care about my well-being.
Right.
And suppose these pandemics are here for a wake-up calling, and be more friendly. And no, we are the opposite.
Right.
With that shooting, I think what we learn is to be wake up the racism.
Right. With that George Floyd too, that just happened, and the world's going crazy.
And the thing is, things like that happened before George Floyd, and some of them got into the limelight, but others did not. But here's my take. Do you know 60% of the money that registered charities take in, they can legally keep for themselves, and they only have to legally pay out 40%. But, El Paso Community Foundation was started by Carl Weiler, who started KTSM, AM, FM, and a TV station here in El Paso, and was a brilliant man, but it was a philanthropic organization. And some leaders of that before said, TV's going to cost too much money to go HD, so we're going to sell off the radio TV station. And that was against Carl Weiler's wishes. He wanted all three to stay El Paso owned and operated, all three together, and all three stay in El Paso. The only wish is all three are still in El Paso, but they're not owned and operated. But anyway, the Community Foundation, who got the Plaza Theater, got all kinds of rich people to pay for the reconditioning of it, and they didn't pay for it. And then they secretly sold the Plaza Theater to the city of El Paso, which then now pays the Community Foundation to run and operate the plaza. But the Community Foundation doesn't have to pay taxes, or they don't have any obligations in keeping the building up or anything like that. So it's funny how that, but the Community Foundation was named as the one organization to take all the money for those victims. And I think somebody should ask them, hey, where did that money go? You know? And so, and again, I'm just asking the question. I'm not accusing them or anything. I'm just stating the facts that they were then, they came out and said, don't give to any other victims' funds. But going back to the act, there was somebody easily manipulated, easily brainwashed, living in his grandparents' house in a rich neighborhood, living the easy life, playing video games every day or whatever, and he needed somebody to blame for his non-action in his life, non-success. So he hears a leader who, and whether you like him or not, Donald Trump first blamed Mexico and Mexicans. Then he didn't realize how important Mexico is. They build car parts that are in every car made in the world. VW now makes 100% of all their vehicles in Mexico. Okay, the GMC Dodge Ram truck has been made. It's considered an import before NAFTA. It was considered an import because it was 100% made in Chihuahua. Okay, there's all these things we don't know about. So then he had to change his term and say, not blame Mexicans, blame immigrants. Okay, well, guess what? That's taking a page out of some dictators' books as well, because you blame other people for the masses' problems. Because everybody, like we've already talked about in this broadcast, this podcast, you know, everybody likes to blame other people for their problems. Yep. So, you know, this kid then says, oh, gee, it's all these damn Mexicans. I'm going to go to the highest percentage Hispanic city in the nation, 86% per capita here in El Paso, and I'm going to go and shoot up as many as I can. How sad is that from 10 hours away? And his defense team, how can you defend against that? And saying he was out of his mind. No, right. He was out of his mind for the 10 freaking hours he drove from Dallas, Texas to El Paso to do that, to bring that upon our community. Now, has it made Walmarts and other places safer? Yeah, definitely Walmarts, maybe. You know, even though there's a security, God bless, because, you know, I've been overweight too, but there's a security guy that eats for 5 people over at the West Side Walmart that if you ran with a gun away from him, he'd be out of breath, you know, in about 15 steps. But I'm saying that was surreal. Could it happen again? Yeah. As you know, I grew up next to Columbine. My good friend in college, Bill Rumor, his mom was the attendance secretary at Columbine High School. She still has problems. She had to tell the FBI who was at school that day and who wasn't, you know, and because, you know, of the kill. And then another tragedy happened in a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado. And damn it, I'm a white boy, but if you look at the mass killings, angry white men are the number one culprits. Right. Now, there was that DC Beltway killers that the son was laying in the trunk, shooting people out of the trunk of the car, and they were Islam, and they were African-American. There was Richard Ramirez, who went to high school here and was from El Paso area.
The Jefferson, did you go to Jeff?
But that's going into serial killers. But when it comes to mass shootings, you know, and then I'm thinking, the people, these middle-class white boys that were the trench coat mafia, they called themselves in Columbine, their lives weren't that difficult. You know, they made it in their mind like, oh, you know, and maybe they were bullied for being the alternative kids in high school, being different. But again, do you focus on the bully or do you focus on working harder on improving yourself? So then on the 10-year reunion, when you pull up in your brand new Tesla and the bully is stepping off the bus because he just got out of stock, and there's nothing wrong with stocking shelves in the grocery store, but I have friends that didn't want to lose their high school reputation, that were the Joe Jocks, we call them, the popular crowd. Mm-hmm. So they never left Green Mountain, Colorado. And so they had to get jobs at the local grocery store or whatever instead of improving themselves and doing something they love, And man, I'm not knocking that profession. I'm just saying they stayed in the area for the wrong reason,
right.
And again, these people that do the mass shootings, that kid over in Dallas that came and shot everybody at Walmart, his life was not bad. People in poverty would give their left arm to have his lifestyle, So, I would love to study his psychology.
He's not going to be punished,
What do you mean he's not going to be punished?
No, I mean, look, it's 1 year.
Yeah, that's
years,
what I was asking him.
And nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
And the governor and the press and the mayor came, all the hard law on him. And now they moved it to another prison.
Oh, he's not in El Paso?
No, they moved to another prison because they were afraid that he was going to be murdered. Why you worry that he's going to be murdered?
We're in the #1 death penalty state of all time. We kill more people on death row in 1 month than California has done in 30 years. Yeah. Okay, so
and it's so illogical that you say, "Oh no, we move it because we transfer to another prison because his life is in danger." Oh, and the people that he killed.
What about their lives?
I mean, those lives weren't important. So sometimes the system is not very right. It's very corrupted. And you could say, if I am the system, I say, I don't care. If they kill him, they save me time and they save me money.
Right.
Because this money is coming from the people that he can insure.
Mm-hmm.
And you just said the key word, money. Most prisons are privatized, and they get more money per prisoner from the federal government, from the state government, from the local government, than if they didn't have that prisoner. So how do you make more money as a prison owner? You have more prisoners, just like the school districts. They don't like any sort of laws that keep illegal immigrants out of El Paso School District, because then their numbers go down and they don't get as much federal money. But guess what? Guess where that federal and state money goes? It goes in the school board's pockets. Our complete school board of El Paso Independent School District, what was it now 8 years ago, and the school board president is in prison. They ripped off, everything, and then the ones who replaced him aren't much
Susie
better.
Bird and stuff.
Oh, and DeMargo, and then Cabrera, Rick Cabrera, who was the news anchor on 7, his brother, Cabrera is the school board president. But do you know they get the most amount of morditas across the country from textbook providers, from construction contractors that build new schools and everything. So in this world, it all comes down to money.
Damn. So when it comes about the system, like capitalism and communism and stuff what do you feel about capitalism? Do you think it could be done right, but with, I don't know. I don't know about freedom to the corporations. I mean, I believe in being entrepreneurs and trying to move up, but I also believe that your happiness gets capped at a certain amount of money, right? You win a certain amount of money and you can't get happier than that. So why make more money? Why, right? Because monopoly was made to show that when you have more, you take from others. So if your happiness is capped at a certain amount of money, why allow freedom to these corporations to just...
Well, here's the thing. They only are charitable, most corporations, because it's a great tax write-off. right? Okay. The richest people in the U.S. and the richest corporations pay the least amount of taxes per capita, per level of income, percentage wise, right? So here's the thing. I finally learned this at my young age. Do you know, I made more money on TV, but I didn't make what people thought. I didn't make six figures a year. People all thought I at least made six figures. I never, in 23 years, 4 months. But you know what? I have more opportunities and I see more opportunities now than I did then. Now, being an entrepreneur, do you have to work your ass off? Yeah. It is the hardest, but it's the most rewarding. But here's the key. When you reach that cap of money, you have to have as Brian Tracy says, you have to have an attitude of gratitude.
Right.
You have to give back. Just like today, I was recording on a cassette. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. Recorder with a microphone, pretending I was on the radio before there was podcasts. And then I was making copies and handing them out to my friends. And they're like, damn, Chuck, you're pretty good, But, I was in your position way back when I was much younger. But here's the thing. The government, the rich people like to cap the growth of people because they want more consumers, right? They want the more consumers. They want to make more money. But here's the thing. When you make it, when you focus more about not being obsessed, when you know that money's going to ebb and flow out of your life, you're just going to be a conduit, I used to worry about the tips. Now we have waiters fist fighting over who's going to wait on our table now in the back because we tip well, better than a lot of people here. And, we'll even tip somebody who's not all that great.
Right.
Is that rewarding mediocrity? No, because guess what? The next time, he's not going to prejudge us. And I'll give a story in Chili's. There were some hillbillies came into Chili's off of I-70 on the way to skiing in Colorado. And I was working at my first Chili's and nobody wanted to wait on them. They looked like they just crawled out of the pasture after mucking out the barn of cow shit. And they were wearing overalls and everything. And there was like 8 or 9 of them. And you know what? That hillbilly, I treated him the same as I treated every table. And that guy gave me $150 tip. And he says, you know what? We were afraid to come in here because of the way we dressed. We were working all day, but we were hungry as hell. And you never once indicated that you judged us, right? So, and all the other people saw my tip because, waiters and people are nosy,
right.
chismosos.
Kind
right?
of like strippers.
And they're all nosy. And damn, Chuck. Oh, that was in my section. You need to split it with me. And I'm like, for what, dude? Because you judged somebody because of the way they dress. So here's the thing. When you reach that cap of money, support people that you see that are in the position. Now, some people say, oh, I don't give to that homeless guy because he's probably going to use it on drugs or alcohol. Well, a lot of them are, unfortunately.
It's the reality.
Yeah, but then you don't know if the guy just lost his job because of COVID, he has 3 kids at home, and, he's got to pay the bills. So it's your choice whether you want to give or not. But again, the harder you hold on to money, the less you'll get. The less will come your way. So it took me again to this time in my life. Now I split everything half with Rosario. And I was even I'll use more Spanish words. I was a mamon about that, right? And I was like, oh, God, this is my money. I made it. No, you're going to be irresponsible with. No, she supported me. She bought me clothes. She bought me food. She bought laundry detergents, cleaner. Right. She, and did stuff. Now I'm at home all the time. I'm like, damn, this housework is hard shit. Yeah. That's part of the reason why I'm losing all the weight. Is this working at home is and working out back. We've got a guy right now putting in bricks, and he's a hard worker and he's supporting his family. And we told him, dude, we don't want you working past noon in this 106, 108, 110 degree heat. And he wants to work. But he says, yeah, man. What did he say? I did feel a little dizzy the other day.
Oh,
and we're
sure.
like, no, man. And we're offering him water, and she gives him Pedialyte and everything. But we're like, no, until this heat wave goes over, you're done at noon.
Right.
And, and so, but all these subjects today, 2 hours and 24 minutes and going, but this is gold. This is podcast gold.
Well, no, I mean, you guys are really interesting people. I really had a really good time talking to you guys. I really wanted to.
Any other questions? One last question. We'll do another one.
All right, one last question. Can I be real?
Yeah.
So you don't do coke?
No.
I don't do coke. Have I done it in my life? I've done it, yes.
Oh, I mean, I'm
I've
sure.
done it
you
in my
know.
life. I've been, actually, the first time I did it, there was actually a drug dealer in Pueblo, Colorado, who pulled out a gun, and
Oh,
he thought it was a narc. And everybody has always thought I was a narc. He says, if you don't do that line right there, I'm going to shoot you.
Oh,
And
shit.
so that's a motivator right there. So, and again, people might record this podcast, but I'm being on the reel because you're being on the reel. And have I done it before in my life? Yeah. Is it also packed in gas tanks and has other things besides? If you do a lot of coke, people who do a lot of soda, as they call it, your feet don't smell or itch anymore because you're snorting a lot of foot powder, and it might just come out through your feet. They cut it with vitamin C. They cut it with diuretics and stuff like that. And then I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but again, when you don't, when you are letting other people dictate your feelings about yourself, then you're like, oh, okay, what the hell, I'll do whatever. But for the most part, I've not been an addicted personality. For the most part, I drank. I drank beer. And then, so that was easy for the TV station to say, oh, well, yeah, we're going to use this past reputation against him. No, man.
Right.
I mean, verbally over the phone, he said he fired me because I called corporate HR. Well, you know what? If I really had the money, I'd go to Dallas and get a $10,000 retainer lawyer, and I would sue, and I would win against the TV station. But you know what? Where's your focus?
Right.
My focus would be on what happened, on the past. My focus is ahead of me now, and my focus is making more money.
Right.
But,
Leave the past behind.
yeah. And again, people that choose to do drugs, I don't, go for it, man.
Right.
I don't judge people, and smoking cannabis has been proven to stop epilepsy and the convulsions and the attacks. Eat those brownies, do it, instead of, breaking your teeth and everything that happens with epileptic attacks and stuff like that. Make your quality of life better with cannabis. But we've hired some professional people around, and there was a dude that, said he was all this and video and audio editing and everything, but he would spark it every day. And, all of a sudden 3 months go by and your project that was supposed to be done 3 months ago is still not done. But in his mind, he's getting close. He's getting close, dude.
He's almost there.
Yeah, I'm almost there. Hey, by the way, did you see that bag of Doritos around here? And then they say, well, sativa you can work on that because it makes you more hyper or whatever. Well, again, it's your mental state. If you think something's going to make you more hyper, I've seen people smoke to go to sleep. Well, all the chemicals totally contradict that. But then they knock out after a cigarette. But it's all because of the power of their mind. It has nothing to do with the chemicals they consume.
Or like people that...
And I never do drugs, at least they are legal. Yeah.
What do you mean?
For my disease.
She's battled a rare blood-borne type cancer for many years.
And I always say, I don't judge people, but I always say, well, hey, it's not very fun when you get the highest drug for painkiller. And for me, I don't feel fine when the drug goes down.
You build up a tolerance.
Yeah.
Because you feel like, shaking and all those things.
Nervous.
And then with the pain. And I say, how can a drug addict do that to their body,
Yeah.
It's like something that I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a family, from my maternal side, that were really, my uncle was from the Interpol,
Mm-hmm.
handled drugs so much. My cousins handled too much drugs,
Mm-hmm.
alcohol, everything, but never touch it. I
Mm-hmm.
saw him do it, but never touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I admire from them, they say, I have one cousin that I love her to death,
Mm-hmm.
and she got sick for doing drugs,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, I'm going to die in what I like,
What?
and it's getting high,
Damn.
and she died doing what she likes.
God.
And
Self-fulfilling prophecy, no?
and
Tell me your thoughts today. I'll tell you your future.
and then and she was my we were 6 months of difference of age.
Damn.
And she has a kid, and I say, so why you did that? Why you have a kid? I mean, you don't think, no, he has to get used that I'm not gonna be here.
Aye, for real.
And so,
That's crazy.
and I say, that's very, and I think the last time we talked, I slapped her when she said that, because I said, that's the most selfish thing I ever had. I mean, you don't bring a kid to this world doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
because he's going to need you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not going to be the same if he goes to another part because
Right.
you're not there. Well, she didn't say too much, and they were her last words to me. I'm going to die in what I like to die.
Damn.
Yeah, and the thing is with me, again, it goes
And
back
I
to
told him the same, because he was in his same road path. And I say, if you want to die, why you don't shoot yourself?
yeah, because I was going out and I was drinking, and I didn't think it affected me. But gosh, look at me, I'm at 108. I have not, but I don't wake up saying, "Oh, I need to get a beer" or anything. I haven't had a beer or drink or in 6 months.
Oh, wow, man.
But
Mind you.
yeah, probably a year. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Wow.
And
that's
but
good.
but here's the thing: could I have a beer right now? Yeah. But would I want more than one? Probably not. Now, because now I've got my focus on succeeding in this weather business with our weather sponsors, succeeding in my hypnosis.
Right.
I own lightninghypnosis.com. My specialty is focusing on people with weather phobia and phobias. And I've helped people lose some weight. But again, it's all the power of your subconscious mind. It's what you focus on. And it's the placebo and the nocebo effect in our lives. If you grew up your whole life saying, "Oh, you can't play drums, you suck at drums," and you listen to those people, you never get better at drums because your subconscious holds you back. But if you play drums and you say, "Screw you, you don't know what you're talking about, I'm going to keep practicing." And every time I speak to a school, I tell the kids, "Can you imagine, what do you like doing?" And a kid says, "Oh, singing." And another girl says dancing. Another guy says playing soccer. I said, "Can you imagine if you practiced playing soccer 8 hours a day? How good would you be?" And they were like, "Oh, yeah." But then you don't just practice one day, 8 hours. No, it's persistence. You
Right.
keep the practice up, and then you do it with enthusiasm because you love soccer. It's your life. You love football, as they call it around in Europe and everywhere else in the world. But soccer, you love it. You love singing. And you
Right.
keep going after it. You know how many famous singers don't have the best voices in the world, but you know what? They're themselves. They have personalities, and they have tenacity, and they kept going after what they wanted.
Exactly. And that's a good place to stop it, and a good message to the people out there. And, just keep pushing forward, and we're all trying to become better people, right?
Yeah, you have to be disciplined,
Exactly.
with yourself, and not expecting other people come and say, you have to be disciplined. No, you have to discipline yourself. You have to love yourself. No one else is going to love you more than you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes we are looking love outside ourselves, and then somebody treats you bad, and then say, "Oh, nobody loves me,"
Right.
and no, it's that you need to love yourself. So then you could love someone else, and you
Exactly.
could teach that person. I have the example here that he always take everything like I was on his case, like say, hey, don't do that, you're gonna get sick. Don't do that, you're gonna get fired. Don't do that, and no, you are so negative. I don't know why you say that, and what. And I said, well, there was a time when I say, I'm not gonna say nothing else, you know. Whatever he wants, that's what his choice. But I don't like when you have somebody and tells you, don't do that because he's going to happen this. Don't do that because he's worrying about you. And then they don't listen, and then after they complain and say, Jesus, if I listen.
Yeah, no, she was right. And I admit it. But in the same aspect, I always used to tell her what I learned. And, you know, I helped people, but the hardest person to help is yourself.
Right.
So you first have to truly love yourself before you can give it away.
Exactly.
And I would tell her that, and she said, well, but you don't love yourself.
Right.
And I didn't get what she was saying. Well, I do now, because I was abusing myself, because I was abused mentally by bullies at work in the show business. They'll actually tell you, Chuck, we did a survey, even though they didn't, and your ears are too big and you're scaring young children in Northeast El Paso. So we're going to move you to the morning show. This is an actual conversation. Damn. We're gonna move you from main meteorologist to the morning show. And then the general manager who's telling me this looks at the news director and goes, boy, if we move Chuck to the morning show, maybe the ratings will go up. I'm like, you dumbasses. Do you not? Number one, I'm still in the room listening to you. Number two, did you just listen to what you said? You just contradicted all the lies. But when they tell you that enough, you know, we had one news director that would tell the women, are you pregnant or are you just fat?
What?
Yeah. And, you know, that's just evil stuff.
That is.
And again, we're going to end this on a positive. But what I'm saying is don't listen to that stuff.
Exactly.
Work harder on yourself than you do at your job, and you'll attract excellent things in your life. You'll attract great people, people that are on the same wavelength. I believe in quantum physics.
Right. Yeah, me too.
You know, women, no matter how nervous they are, their vibrations are slow and easy. Guys, when we want to impress a girl and we're first dating, our vibrations are like this. So then she's like, hey, I like that guy. He's kind of cute. And you go up to the girl and the woman and say, hey, how's it going? And then the woman's like, the woman's like, creeper. Yeah, no, she gets, you're not on her same wavelength. Yeah. And, you know, when the saying says slow your roll, it's so true. Guys have to slow their roll, slow their vibration they're sending out to match up with the other person. Right. Everything's vibrating. This table, everything, okay? And more science is proving it through quantum physics that we send out vibrations. That gut feeling, we watch NCIS, and Gibbs always has a gut, and his gut is always right. Well, that gut feeling you have is 99% of the time right.
Isn't that what they relate with string theory?
Exactly.
Like the vibrations and all.
So anyway, get on the right vibrational plane by getting in the right mind and focusing on a goal. And once you reach it, make other goals.
There it is. Yeah. Well, Chuck and Rosario,
thank you.
We would like to thank you.
Daniel, the engineer.
I noticed you were calling me Daniel. My name is Luis.
No.
I don't know why you're
no, I'm okay. And who's Daniel?
I don't know. That's okay. Daniel. I'm Luis.
Okay, Daniel. And
Luis.
Luis. No, I knew your name was Luis. It was Luis and Daniel. And then where's Ivan? No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
somewhere
And,
here.
No, I was saying, I was referring to Daniel because he's the silent one over there. So when I was talking to Daniel, I knew that because he's the guy who was calling me on the phone and inviting me over and all that. Hey, guys, this is awesome. I wish you the best.
Chuck.
Keep on playing the keyboards. And learn a little Depeche Mode, you know.
Right,
They are the king of the. In fact, they're giving away a Roland signed by all the band in a contest. I don't know if it's still on or not, but they're giving away a synth that they wrote all their happy songs.
The DO5, the Roland.
Yeah.
That one's that one, the newer.
Yeah.
This is the D50, and then they did the DO5, which is a newer version, but it doesn't sound the same, man. You have to get the original.
The original
1989,
ones.
yeah.
No, nothing sounded better than the 80s.
Exactly,
but
man.
No one could dance, nor did they really realize how goofy they dressed in the 80s until, anyway.
And where can you guys be reached, man?
Yes. Follow all our social media platforms. ChuckDeBroder.com, ChuckDeBroder.org, and Chuck DeBroder Certified Meteorologist on Facebook. And go, Rosario.
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and
LinkedIn.
And follow us on our cooking show on Wednesdays at 11 a.m.
And for right now, it's on Activa Juarez 1420 and Rosana Diaz from Televisa en La Mañana. For years, the news anchor. She's the co-anchor, and she is in our kitchen, and it's broadcast all over Chihuahua on 14 and all over Mexico.
Hell yeah, that's nice.
From our kitchen. And Rosario, boy, we're getting a lot of hits. And, a lot of people say, oh, you have to have your niche and you only have to talk about synthesizers on your YouTube and that's it. No, damn it. You need a bass player. You need a drummer. You need a rhythm section. You need a guitar to make a band. So, you know what? News stations just don't have news. They have weather, sports, entertainment.
And scripts.
And scripts. But in weather, did you know it's all memorized? That's the only thing. Unless you're talking the Clima chicas with dos frente frios coming at you.
Oh, the hot chicks in Univision.
Yeah, but they're reading it off. They're reading it off a script there for free.
Right, you can't even see the weather. You're just like, damn.
And they're wearing they're like she's in her chonies.
Right.
She's in her underwear, right there. So,
yeah. All right. Well,
cool.
Thank you everyone for tuning in, and have a good one. Thank you.